Welcome everyone to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast. I'm a networking expert and the author of the upcoming book, No Strangers, How to Build Community, One Relationship at a Time. My why is the pursuit of mastery, and the goal of this podcast is to lock arms on a lifelong mission of daily personal growth to become the best version of ourselves. So let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the podcast. We are joined by a couple special guests. This is the legendary bagpipe duo from the Celtic rock band Mudmen, and I'm very excited to talk to them today. So welcome to the podcast, Mr. Robbie Campbell and Mr. Sandy Campbell. How are you guys doing? This must be the bald is beautiful, no hair edition of the podcast. What's going on, guys?
It's true, you know?
Exactly.
Well, it's finally popular now, you know, and we got to thank guys like Mr. Clean and of course Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right. And more recently, The Rock was named the sexiest man alive. So
I didn't know
it's
that.
official now that bald is beautiful. So
Bruce Willis did it too. So
Bruce Willis. Yeah. No hair, don't care. What's going on with you guys? It's been about a decade since I've seen you in person. So I'm excited to catch up here.
Well, we're working away. We've been doing very well playing theaters and things like that. We're working on a new album. We've been working on a book for a long time. And then the book started getting bigger and bigger. So we decided we got to put a DVD with this thing. And because I think when you tell people stories, it's much better when they see it. So when you actually see some of this video footage of us shaking hands with the Queen and Wayne Gretzky putting the Stanley Cup down between us, then all of a sudden it changes your opinion very quickly. So we've got, well, Rob's done almost all of it, but he's got like the Trues and Danko Jones and Alan Frew of Glass Tiger, Bob of Great Big Sea, Walter Ostenak. Oh my God, we went down to see Walter and we spent 7 hours telling stories with him that day. And we got some gold from him and 5440. And of course, Ron McLean and Tara Sloan right from Hometown Hockey. And Don Cherry put the suit on and went out in the backyard last summer, I think it was.
last summer.
That's a lot of Canadian royalty that you just named.
Well, we said that too. You know, we think that we really represent Canada well. If you look at the amount of things we've done over the years and playing for the lighting of the CN Tower and with the Phantom of the Opera, and we've toured Europe representing Canada for Canada Tourism and things like that. And
Cups, Memorial Cups, the Briar,
Hockey Night in Canada. And we think this is, you know, we're going to be very Canadian. So hopefully Canada is going to support us big time here.
Amazing.
Sam was saying that, you know, he was going to challenge Tim, what's his name there, Justin Bieber, to a Tim Bieb eating contest. See if he would give her a go there. And, you know, hopefully in the future we can be part of the Tim Hortons, the brand there. And
that would be great. I don't think there's been any band that's drank more coffee than us.
All those cold days on the road, in the Canadian winters. But to be honest, there's not too much meat on the Biebs, so I don't think he'd win the Tim Biebs eating contest.
Coffee, though.
But you know, I've seen some small little Portuguese guys that'll get to the buffet and surprise the hell out of you. And you see,
actually, Mario that was in the band he was tall. He's probably 6'2" or 3", but he was a slim guy. But man, he was a machine. He could really eat.
When you see those hot dog eating contests, there's always one massive dude, and then the winner is always this like little Asian kid, you know. So there's some magic going on down there.
Well, we were doing this thing up in Ottawa actually, and
shout out.
And it was
the Wing. What was it? Wild Wings 30th anniversary, and so they did this whole big weekend of entertainment. And so they had us playing the Friday night, and they said to us, we're supposed to have heavy rains, and there's a big festival on the Saturday that was being canceled. And they said, we're going to pull all the entertainment from Saturday and Sunday to Friday night. Are you guys cool with that? And it's like, absolutely. So they brought down, they had the chicken eating contest, and they brought down this world champion eating lady that could scarf down 12 pounds of food in 3 minutes.
Yeah, she was small. It was unbelievable.
and they had a bunch of celebrities in that. So she did her demonstration. I think she ate 9 pounds of food, counting the plate and whatever else. And so then the guys were doing the chicken wing eating contest, and they were doing for volume, and she got in the contest and was going against them and proven. And then at the after party afterwards, she was mowing down. They had a spread for us, and they had some Ottawa 66 hockey players down, and the celebrities and stuff like that. And that was a grand party, but she surprised the hell out of all of us. It's like, wow.
I love how you called it a demonstration, like she's at a science fair, but she's just like wolfing down hot dogs and wings and stuff.
Well, they had a big, massive burger for her, and she did that, and with the fries on it, kind of like the big challenge they do in these. Some of these TV shows are kind of cool. That one I watch it, and you say, I drove past that place, never stopped. I forget what that one is. Is it Guy? What's his name?
Guy Fieri.
I've been to a few of the places that he's been to and drove past and the whole bit. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, she was amazing what she could do. So
what we were thinking is just funny, because not only that, but you bounce off the big name. And it's like, if we ever did a commercial though, I'll put money on it. You give us a chance to do a commercial, like whether it would be for Canadian Tire, which we're extremely good supporters of us. That was, between diesel and all the supplies we buy there. Mark's Work Warehouse too. And they own that too, And if we ever did a commercial, you wouldn't forget it. The best commercials are the ones that are sometimes like Wendy's. Where's the beef? You never, well, that was maybe before your time, but it's one of the best commercials ever. And if we ever did a commercial, and we've talked a few times to people, like we were playing, one time we're doing this gig and we come in and we know a lot of people that work behind the scenes, because we've made friends over the years with all the people, the loaders and whoever else, right? From Mervish to every place we've ever played. So we get there and these guys are going to us, do you guys think you're up for it today? And we said, I think so. And he says, it's going to be a hard gig. And it's like, okay, whatever. And they keep on going, okay, what am I missing here? What's the deal? So we were playing for a pharmaceutical company, and they make their Eli Lilly, and they make Cialis.
Okay. I was going to say, was it Viagra?
Yeah. They kept making these comments. So I think that's the one they make, whatever. And so anyway,
they didn't give us any free samples.
No, we didn't.
That's too bad.
But we said we would like.
You can't get high on your own supply, right? So
yeah. Well, we said we'd like to do an Anderson commercial though, or something like that. Because think about it, headaches and the bagpipes. It's a.
Well, Don Cherry did that one years ago with Rose and Blue, and that was memorable. You go back on YouTube and you watch some of those old commercials, and they stand up. It's like the Kit Kat one, and it's good stuff.
Well, this podcast helps dreams come true. So maybe what comes out of this is you end up locking in that sponsorship from Canadian Tire or Mark's Work Warehouse or a hot dog eating contest. Or the Beebs or Tim Beebs. Or
well,
we'll see.
It would be funny because it would certainly be memorable. You look at the Canadian Tire commercials; they're amazing with that guy. And what's the one there too with the hamburgers?
The A&W's guy.
A&W guy, yeah, they're great too. And I think that
even the sportscast guy, that Sportsnet, that talks about pirating illegal sports and this and that. I don't know any pirates. He's pretty good. That guy, he's got a dry sense of humor. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. He's always wearing the suit, and he's got the turtleneck, and I can't think of his name.
It's hard to cut through with a good commercial these days. So if you can do something unique and memorable,
well, the problem is, early from day one, even our sister contacted, like Campbell Soup, said, hey, you want to see what the Campbell kids are up to today and things like that. And they let her know that they have their own people that do this. And as we said, like in the music business, you're so excited when you start, and then you get a little disillusioned. And like I talked to somebody on the phone one time that was supposedly, maybe it was a janitor, I don't know, but was supposedly the person that brought in the music for a Saturday Night Live. And so that's how optimistic we were. You pick up the phone and you find, we didn't have Google and all this crap back then either. It was much harder to find all this stuff. So I get this number and I phone somebody, and I don't know, maybe it wasn't the right person anyway, but they informed me that, we only do 40 to 50 shows a year, so we take the top 40 bands. So we're like, but we're unique. We're different. And think of the jokes you could make. I mean, we're built-in comedy, with the kilts and coming in wearing with the bagpipes and the kilts and everything. But yeah, that was still a hard no.
Yeah, it all worked out though with
With
all the hockey night in Canada and all the placements and all that stuff. We'll go into that. You guys have so much good stuff coming up between the book and new album, the best of album that came out, touring whenever the restrictions ease a bit in Canada. I'd like to go back all the way to the beginning, if that's okay with you. So before we do that, I just want to share a story with you. So I shared this story with you guys about a decade ago, but I'll do it again for our listeners. So when I was 14, my parents drove me from Ottawa to Toronto to attend Canadian Music Week. I was seeing if I could learn about the industry. I was starting to be serious about a career in music. And I waited in line for hours at a Future Shop at Yonge and Dundas to see a bunch of bands, to get some pictures and autographs. So there was the Salads, there was Not By Choice, there was Edwin from I Mother Earth, there was Fifi Dobson, there was Sean Desmond, and there was the Mudmen. So I have a picture of a 14-year-old Joel Martin with bleached blonde hair and gray shiny pants that look like I'm auditioning for a Cisco video. And I'm getting an autograph from you guys. So that is my first in-person connection with you guys. I probably didn't even say hi, but I got an autograph and a picture. And then years later, so about 12 years later, I'm now living in Toronto, and the Mudmen are huge. You guys have all these videos on Much Music and on the radio. I'm a big fan, and I see that you guys are auditioning for a singer. So I reach out and I message, and you guys are like, yeah, sure, let's do an audition. So you guys come to my shitty apartment. You sit down at my shitty kitchen table, and I do an acoustic audition, just acoustic guitar and vocals. And you guys loved it. So that was me in my element with the way that I play. You guys loved it. Things were looking good. We were talking about tour dates and contracts and all this stuff. A week later, I go out for the first full band audition, and we very quickly realized that my pretty little voice is not a great fit for the rock radiation, for the Celtic Warriors. We need something a little more powerful. So that was my 1 week of kind of being an unofficial member of the Mudmen that I forgot about because it was so quick until I was preparing for this interview. So what are your thoughts on those two memories?
Well, we said, I'll let Rob talk about the first one, but the second one, I remember coming to your apartment distinctly. We came with Big Al, who played with us for about 8 years, and Al was a fantastic guy. And I still remember your apartment, and I guarantee it was better than where we were living. And so anyway, we'll get into that later too. But in the process of making this dream, Rob and I have lived in some factories where we rehearsed, and we've got some good stories there. And you were fantastic, and we checked out your stuff from Canadian Idol and all that good stuff too. Which I've heard different rumors that people say you don't actually want to be in the top 3 because you might be owned. But and then that's one of the hard things with singing with us, when you're stuck in that B flat. If your voice doesn't hit that spot, you're going to blow your voice out because you're either singing too high all night or you're singing too low. And that's a question people have asked us, but it's one of the reasons we went through a bunch of singers too, because it's just, if it doesn't suit your voice, it's not sitting in the right range, there's a good chance you're going to lose your voice singing with us. It's hard. Yeah,
I have a high nasally voice that is quite a bit higher than my speaking voice, and I found it to be quite challenging. And I actually have a quote here. So I have some fan questions that are sent in. I reached out to some mutual friends, and this is from former Mudmen singer Stephen Gore. So this is a long quote because he misses you guys. So bear with me while I read this. And he talked to me about the challenge of singing that high and that low, and him having to find his groove and how not to burn out the voice. So this is what he says. I believe he recorded about 3 albums with you guys. So he says the Campbell brothers are 2 of the hardest working men I've ever known. There were nights on the road when they would spend hours talking to fans at a Tim Hortons. That's too funny that he mentions Tim Hortons. We're going to get that sponsorship. Instead of getting sleep after driving across the country, I would be absolutely exhausted some nights. And I realize now that in order to build anything worthwhile, you have to connect with people that believe in you and go out of your way any chance you get to keep building those relationships. That's how you build successful grassroots fan bases. And it's the same way you build a successful business, not by being a salesman, but by building relationships. Looking back, I respect the brothers even more than I could have understood at the time for the band and the business they created over 20 years ago. They built it the right way. This is a long quote. We're halfway through.
Right,
so here we go. It says a lot that these same fans show up every time we were in town after all these years. Even if we were playing in a small town in the middle of nowhere, touring our way to the Grey Cup, it always felt like a home game for us. And it's because the brothers continue to grind, build, and foster relationships that will last a lifetime. I haven't been able to catch up with them in years other than over the phone, but I know when we see each other again, the bond and friendship will never change. My voice isn't what it used to be, and I sell houses now, but there's something about the bond you will build with people when you're living your dream and fighting tooth and nail every damn day to not let go. Not to sound too dark, but touring this beautiful country with those guys will likely be one of the last great memories that rolls through my mind when I'm laying on my deathbed. That is from Stephen Gore, former Mudmen singer. Does that get you right in the feels?
That's great. And we said, like, again, he was a great guy, fantastic guy. We've got some really good stories with Steve over the years. And there was a few times too there where he was having some throat issues. Or he was a trooper. He went through it. Where we had a great story actually one time in Calgary. Our booking agent at the time phoned us up and he said, it was St. Paddy's Day. He said, would you like to double up? Would you like to do a second show? And we're like, sure. Rob and I've done where we've played just as pipers in the morning and then Guelph University in the afternoon and then Norma Jean's in London at night. And so we've doubled up many times and make a little extra money. So our booking agent booked the 2 bars. They're only a block and a half apart, owned by the same owner in Calgary. So this is March, of course. So it's Calgary is a little different than Ontario in March. So it's a little cold. And well, what we didn't realize then when we got all the information was what they wanted is we had to play 45 minutes at the one club, then run down the street a block and a half over the ice and everything and do 45 minutes in the other bar and then a 10 or 15 minute break to get back running down the street and do 45 minutes and then a 10-15 minute break to run down the street and do it again. So we did 6 sets and we had a fiddle player with us too, so we leave just a fiddle player and drummer and start packing stuff, and Rob and I'd hurry down and we'd start the next set without the mandolin, guitar, fiddle player. We'd start, and that's how we made it work. But Steve Gore was on that one, and we did the 6 45-minute sets that night. We had to run back and forth down the street, and you know, he was a trooper.
He was a trooper because that was a tough gig, and then there was no time to drink. St. Paddy's Day, everybody wants to have a few drinks. The bar is just slammed, and you're like, "Oh, could we get some drinks to the stage here?" So we owe him a few cold ones or a bottle of scotch over that one. And Steve was such a great guy. He had the Asian flu one time, and we were touring, and I don't know where he got it, or how he got it, but anything's possible in Grand Prairie. But he soldiered on. He was singing and he was sick. We had him in the hospital and the doctor told him to fly home, and he didn't leave us. He was a good guy that way. And there's times there he got fried one time in Colbert. And it's a pretty funny story. And I don't
hold on. I love how you guys say one word and the other guy reacts like he knows the story. So you just said he was fried and then we get a laugh. You said, oh, we're in Calgary and we get a laugh. You guys just know these stories inside and out. Anyways, continue.
We were playing the Highland Games in Colbert. So I don't know if you've been to Colbert, but they've got a nice little amphitheater there. And so they've got the change room underneath and stuff like that. So we were downstairs with the organizer. They're paying us and showing us the dressing room and stuff like that. So the guys are doing sound check upstairs. And we hear this big boom and then boom. And we're like, what the hell is that? Whatever. Right? We're like, yeah, it's the something fell over or something, I don't know, blew an amp or something, right? Well, the guy had the monitors jacked, and I don't know what he did, but when Gore went up to say check 1 2 on the microphone, he got about 6 inches away from it. A blue spark flew, knocked him on his ass, blew the monitors all to help. The breaker flipped in the basement, and the thud we heard was him hitting the ground and his guitar in the whole bit. And so we came up, thinking, what's going on with sound check, and guy almost killed Gore. And so Gore, anybody else would have went to the hospital and said, I'm not doing this, or this guy can't mix this. He soldiered through. He's a good guy. And he, went through with it. And then at the end of the night, the guy comes up to us and goes, man, I'm a big fan of your band. And I'd like to tour with you guys, give him a business card. And it's like, you're a nice guy. Like Roddy Piper said, you're a lousy wrestler, though. But, just about killed my singer, and you're handing me a business card. It's like,
It's funny because, we've heard of that before, because we're the type of guys that we roll in to play, where was that, Bengal, Saskatchewan, and there's a tornado coming in. And so we arrive, and we get into town, and we go to the festival buyer, and she says to us, well, we have to cancel because there's a possibility of this tornado, and it wouldn't be responsible of us to go ahead. And we said, well, we'll play anyway, whatever you want, we'll do it, right? We're going to get paid regardless, keep in mind. So like, I think Big Sugar and Wide Mouth Mason and a few other bands were on this, and they got paid, and they had to be on their way for the next day. So we said to her, okay, well, we've got a show tomorrow, so we have to leave. But if you're doing like a pancake breakfast or something, we would play the pancake breakfast, right? So that we're not just taking money for not doing anything. So we did this just to be nice, and next morning we played the pancake breakfast, and it was fantastic. We sold lots of merchandise, and it turned out it worked really well. And then we had to be on the road by like noon because we had a 9-hour drive to our next gig, and it actually really worked out. And then sometimes that's how people remember you. They don't forget that, these guys, they didn't have to do that. They could have taken their money and got paid in full and left, but, they went out of their way to try to do something,
We said a funny Steve Gore story I shouldn't tell, but I'm going to. There's numerous. You read a book on that guy. He was a great character. But we were playing up Sault Ste. Marie, and this pipe band decided they wanted to pipe us onto the stage. And we said, yeah, we'll talk to the promoter because, it's not my call. I'm not the festival guy. So anyway, so they squeezed their way on there, whatever else. So they're in our little trailer there. And so Sam and I are selling merch and talking to fans and stuff. And we hit the stage. And apparently the pipe band was drinking our beer riders. So Gore got the idea to take all the beer onto the stage because, make sure there's a few left for us when we finished. And so we got done, and Sam and I are selling merch again. We missed all the excitement, but the pipe band came up to Gore, most likely thinking it's his band and he's the leader. And they were mad because you took all the beer and that was for everybody performing. And it's like, no, when they did the country show in the afternoon and they had, I forget, Dallas Smith, we didn't drink his beer. So Gore said to him, you want to drink? And he pulls out this big bottle of scotch. He said, come on, kid, let's go. And he put the kid was laying on the ground, whatever else. And the mom comes over, what did you do to my kid? And it's like,
oh yeah,
he wanted to drink. It's like
so he went shot for shot. Another guy we should mention, and because when you talk about Steve Gore, the reason Steve Gore actually got in the band, which is also good for you to know, is because our bass player at the time, Mario Boza, it's like, I've got this friend of mine, that I should have thought about. I think he'd be great for the group. And so that's how Steve got in the band, was through Mario Boza. And so they're best friends. And now they're doing a little side project called Mario and Me. So you can check that out.
Me and Mario.
Or Me and Mario?
Me and Mario, yeah.
Me and Mario. So they're doing this side project. And Mario was another guy. He was the slim guy we talked to one time before about how much he could eat. And he's out working on the ships now. I just talked to him the other day for, I think, 2.5 hours or something like that.
I've listened to the entire Mudmen discography to prepare for this. So I was already familiar with a lot of the music. And even though there's several different singers over the course of the discography, there's at least 3, I believe. They each had their own uniqueness to them, but there's still something that connects all of them. There's this Mudmen tone that runs through all the singers, yet I could still identify when it was someone new. What do you account for that? Is it that you were looking for something specific when you were auditioning singers?
We were definitely looking for something specific, but I'll be honest, you don't always get what you want to. And Zoe, for example, our first singer, who was with us for probably 10 years, he had a huge break.
So he was on the EMI records and Defending the Kingdom, and then it switched over. Okay.
Yeah, so he's on the first three, and then Morty came in, and Morty, when he came in, his voice was very high, to be honest. So it's like, it would have been nicer. Like Steve Gore was more, deep, and he was more what we would have liked to have. But Morty was an awesome singer. He had a great voice, and what a character. Oh my God. We have the best stories on Morty from going across Canada. But of course, we have to, in the book and stuff, we don't put names to the stories.
I was gonna, so to distance him from these stories later on, I'm gonna ask, what is the craziest story, like entertainment industry story, that you can share? And with all the days on the road, I'm sure there's something. So we'll distance him from that, and later on we'll talk about some crazy stories.
We said he was fantastic. And I think, the first album that we started, most of the songs started from Rob and I. So, and then we had Dave Martin, the record label, brought him in to write a couple of hits for us, and that was fantastic. He's a great guy.
He's got a powerful last name. I approve.
Oh yeah, yes, exactly.
Yes,
yeah.
True.
And but a lot of the songs started with Rob and I, and you have to work again around the bagpipes and being in B flat. So I think that's one of the reasons there's some, cohesiveness. I was surprised that we were able to put all those different albums and singers together, and it actually worked, because I thought, oh God, because we made some big changes where, like, that High Road album, which is, we went really punk and high energy, and, we were the band that we get to close the festivals. The big headliner goes on, and then we're stuck trying to hold the crowd, but we could sell booze and hang and hold the crowd. So we kind of embraced that. So we wrote a whole album about drinking, and that worked very well for us. And we continued to go along the image of being pretty wild characters. And then when the Hockey Night in Canada thing actually happened too, it's like, oh man, this is a really good opportunity for us to make a big shift. And when you have Ron McLean saying Mudmen, we love them, then maybe you have to be a little more respectable sometimes too, and be careful what you're doing on and off stage. And the Donegal Danny album we thought was a good one to get us into more Highland games and really hit that traditional kind of market, but it was very traditional. And so we've made quite a few changes over the years, and yet I know we've hung on to our fans. I don't know.
Well, like Sandy said too, when Ron McLean gave us that big plug, and he embraced our product and brand, and that's when we really started to get back into the corporate world as well. We started out in the corporate world playing for Walmart, Weedman, and stuff like that, and we've got some great corporate stories that we can share if you want some of them later on or right now or whatever. But we said, our music had to be you kind of had like a plane elevated to where we wanted to go with the more family direction, the theaters, this and that. And Ron McLean said that to us too. He really liked the direction we were going. He said, I love Drink and Fight, but he said, it's not the kind of song you want in your car every day. Right. And there's a lot of truth to that too.
Well, we said we've become more the band. For an example, a great example would be something like, probably Tom Petty, Great Big Sea,
Spirit of the West.
Spirit of the West would be a good one.
Kind of the music you want to come on if you have friends over, like just a good vibe.
That it lands here.
Doesn't
that it might not be heavy enough for some people, but it's still good. And then
it's still not Shania Twain.
It lands, it lands somewhere in the middle. Whereas if you go, like, we were pretty extreme in one direction, where people like our mom and the older generation, we told her to never come out during those years. But now we're landed more in the middle, and we play all these family festivals, and there's so many more options. And I mean, the bar scene, honestly, we had a lot of fun, but we never made any money or
we can
really
still juice
accomplished
it up
anything.
if we get in the beer tent at the Plow Match and there's a bunch of redneck farmers that sponsored by mostly Canadian or something. We could still juice it up when needed. But we said we're that band that it's been said to us one time. Mick, that was road managing the Guess Who and Glass Tiger, said to us one time, he's like, you guys should teach a course because on survival and how to do things. He said, I've never seen a band play for kids, bikers, Celtic, and seniors with the same set list in the same weekend, whatever, right? Like, because we've been on cars before where he's road managing one band, and then the next thing he's this band and that band, whatever else, and he said, you're playing the same set list and you're getting away with it. Most times
we're out there playing Dauphin Country Fest, for example, one night, and then we're playing a wild bar, and then you're playing a theater to more like a lot of older people, and then we're opening for Five Finger Death Punch, which got canceled due to a big storm. But
that would be massive. Those guys are huge. I saw them open for Slipknot. That's how big they are. Yeah.
Well, those guys are great guys, because it was really funny that we, at the time, Steve Gore was on that adventure, and we had our little roadie with us that day, and the booking agent said to us, they're not gonna go on with it. He had the deposit, the guy's gonna wire the money. We said, nope, we're gonna go down there, we're gonna collect our money, we're gonna prove we want to play, and if there's some way we could do it. Well, the night before was Corn, so the crowd got jumping, and the field was destroyed, the stage sunk down, and whatever else. And so we get there, and San had to take the long road in with the van, a two-wheel van and trailer. Howie got in there, and he came in, there's mud down the side of the van, and he rolls up to the
Mudmen, baby. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
And he got the mud along the side.
He rolls down the window, and the lady that was at the gate, he just started laughing, saying, we're the Mudmen, right? Because it was just so suiting. And I go in the building to talk to the promoter, and now they've lost hydro, and there's candles and whatever else. And so the guy that's paying us, he's got a long line of people ahead of him, and whatever else. So I said to our little roadie, I said, let's go in our trailer, and let's see what our rider was, right? Because maybe we could take some beer back to the hotel, right? So we open up the trailer, and all of the big stars were getting trailered in with gators and stuff because it was so muddy and stuff. But here's these Five Finger Death Punch guys, and they're stuck until they gator them. There's fans that know that they're in there and they want autographs, so they're just going from trailer to trailer, eating and drinking the food. And so we come in there, and they were really nice guys, even though they looked like they were not the kind of guys that would want to talk to a Celtic band, but whatever. And so our little road manager guy was funny, so he's like, can we have one of our beers, and so they were good. And he said, I guess no drinking and fighting tonight, hey boys. And they're looking at us like, what the hell are you guys talking about, right? But they were really good guys. That was a funny night. And so Sean works for us, can we take a 6-pack of our beer back to the hotel? And they'd let us take 12. They were good guys. And I wasn't familiar with them until we got the gig, and you get watching them and stuff. And as Corn was the same. We did a promo with Corn one time, and you look at them, you think, God, these guys are going to be unapproachable, and great guys. They treated us like kings, and we met them at the Junos one year, and they remembered our little participation. We piped them down Yonge Street in front of the tank into HMV back in Yonge Street, and 10,000 people, and they signed a lot of autographs, and they were great guys. Because the book doesn't always, the cover doesn't always, tell the story,
Yeah, they warn you sometimes. So I'm a big Korn fan. Like, that's when I turned 14 is the height of the new metal, Korn, Limp Bizkit, Disturbed, Stained, all those bands. So I'm a huge Korn fan. And sometimes they say, you have to be careful meeting your idols, because you dream of meeting them, and they're going to be so nice, and you feel like you know them even though they don't know you, and they can be, they can be some horrible human beings. So it's nice to hear that the guys in Korn were nice, and he plays bagpipes, doesn't he? Jonathan Davis. They have that. They're known. That's part of the uniqueness, is they're super heavy, and they have bagpipes usually to open their shows, or usually to open their albums, actually.
Well, he wasn't on that card. What happened that day was they were going to perform one of the songs from what was it?
Follow the leader.
And so his grandfather died. And so at the last minute, they said, well, what could we do? Because fans want autographs and stuff. So I forget, Kevin Campbell at Sony Music said, why don't we get the Campbell brothers down? We'll pipe them. We'll get them dressed out in camo and whole bit. And we'll pipe a tank down the street with corn on the tank. And then we'll pipe them into the store. And then the band will set up with their gear and take pictures with fans and autographs. So they were eating Taco Bell and drinking, I forget, Bud Light or something. And they were sharing their rider with us. And they had a handler that said, get more beer, get more Taco Bell, because they refused to end the line. They were scheduled to do 3,000 autographs. They did the whole 10,000. Anybody wanted an autograph, they were great guys. And then at the Junos, something happened where Jonathan wasn't there again in Toronto, and we met the band at the Liberty Grand, I think it was, after party. They were great, Dan, but I would like to meet, that's on my bucket list to have a chat with him, because of the whole pipes and the whole bit.
Well, he's another guy too that sometimes, we have had some people in the piping world that have a negative opinion because they're traditionalists. And unfortunately, sometimes the piping and the fiddle world get a little too traditional, and it has to be a certain way, and their minds aren't always open to change and things like that. But Rob and I are opposite, that we feel that bands like Korn are really good for the bagpipes, whether it's your kind of music or not, but they put the bagpipes in a different light and they make it cool. Same thing as when we were teenagers. A friend of ours one time said to us, if anyone ever makes fun of the bagpipes, you tell them Bon Scott of AC/DC played them. And he said a few other words I won't say. And so, Bon Scott of AC/DC, Jonathan Davis of Korn, Peter Gabriel's had bagpipes on a song. Rod Stewart, Phil Collins learned the bagpipes himself. And there's a guy that we should have tried to somehow connect with, because that could have been a great connection. And then of course, Rod Stewart would have a pipe band, pipe him on the stage. Paul McCartney had a #1 hit with the bagpipes too. I
guess it's kind of like Ashley McIsaac that made playing the fiddle cool for several years.
Ashley's a perfect example. Where
he's a monster on the fiddle. I saw my very first concert memory was my parents brought me. I was so young that at the concert, all I wanted was pizza. I didn't care about the music or the bands. I just wanted pizza. That. So it was Ashley McIsaac opening for Sheryl Crow, opening for the Tragically Hip. How about that? That's a pretty solid lineup for a kid. So that's my intro into the live music world. I think my parents, that's hashtag parent winning, I think,
Well, you can imagine our introduction. Like our mom used to play piano, and they would go to nursing homes and play for free and stuff like that. Like our mom was a very good person. And so I was supposed to actually learn the fiddle, and then I ended up getting the bagpipes. But we didn't have Google and YouTube and all these things growing up. We had like 4 stations maybe out in the country, like we had Channel 10. So basically, you grew up on, we did get Looney Tunes on the weekend. That was great. Sunday night, we got the Magic of Disney. I think it was called, it was great. Tommy Hunter show, some things like that. The Irish Rovers was a staple. Every Friday night, they had their show, and they were amazing. And that's the kind of music that we grew up on. It wasn't until like high school when we actually got the big aerial out in the farm, and we actually got, much music. And when you're driving yourself now, you're actually listening to popular current music of the day. But we actually grew up in real traditional kind of music. That was our influence. And the first concerts we ever went to were like old time fiddlers playing. And then of course the Irish Rovers would be one of the first real concerts, Stompin' Tom. So that was kind of our experience. Now there were so many topics there that I could have, but it's just hard to jump in and stuff like that. But we have found that we have met so many stars over the years. And to be honest, we found most of them have been fantastic. We used to do most of the Walk of Fames. So we've met so many stars, and we've been so impressed with there's certain people like Mr. Dressup, for example, Ernie Coombs. He's just an amazing guy. And he always would remember us and know us. Kurt Browning, figure skater, again. amazing guy. Every time he'd see you, he'd make a point of coming over and saying hi. And you get from the Maple Leafs there, he's a walk on there. Steve Thomas, guys like that, just amazing guys. But then there were some people that, Rob and I realized were right from the farm. And we've had some band members over the years that, again, we won't mention names, but they're real jerks. They're city and we're country, and we're just not quite cool enough for them. But anyway, we get to meet, somebody like, for an example, Celine Dion. I don't really know what to expect, but she was fantastic, and then again, Sarah McLachlan, fantastic.
You know what I find is actually the longer that someone has had a career in the music industry and the longer they've been in the spotlight, it's actually reverse of what you think. They're actually a lot nicer. It's like they've been through everything and they realize how improbable it is that they've had so much success and longevity that they're grateful. It's like they've overcome that moment of spotlight where they think they're a big deal. And I find that if you ever meet someone that isn't that nice, it's like they've just got those few moments in the spotlight. It's new to them and they get the big head and they're gone as fast as they came up. Is that kind of the same with you?
Totally agree. We say that all the time. We've actually been asked to come speak at schools and stuff like that. But I mean, if you don't have a personality, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to make it in this business. And I think that's why those people do last so long, is because when you actually get to meet them, they turn out to be fantastic people. I mean, there's been a few that have been a disappointment, but I mean, we had a song in WWE wrestling. So we've got to meet a ton of wrestlers. Hacksaw Jim Duggan was great. We have Kamala, the Ugandan giant. He passed away a year or two ago, but if you remember Kamala, he wore the big wooden mask in and thing, and we've got him pretending to play our bagpipes and stuff. We got Jimmy Hart and Mouth of the South that managed Hulk Hogan giving us a shout out on our documentary and saying we're his new favorite band. Great guy. Tito Santana, one of the nicest guys ever. We came up and we got talking to him, and he said, we did the theme music for the Highlanders, and that would help us kind of have a little in. And we said, we did okay. We didn't do as well as we would have liked to, but we did a little bit. And he said, hey, don't ever talk like that. He said, if it wasn't for Andre the Giant, I wouldn't have made it. You got to have somebody in your corner. And see, what a humble and a nice guy. And then when you meet somebody, because trust me, we've met more than our fair share of people coming up through the ranks that they haven't accomplished anything yet. And they're very arrogant. And I wouldn't be surprised if, we had a few people in our first rendition that a little too big for the old britches there too, that
rub people the wrong way.
Because we've heard different stories over the course of time where drummer starts playing with us and he phones up the Edge and he says, hey, I'm playing with the Mudmen now, and he's friends with Darren Pfeiffer, who's playing spin
Goldfinger and the Salads.
Yeah. And so he's like, could you maybe spin some Mudmen? And apparently, whether this is true or not, or maybe he did want us to fire somebody badly, but the message came back saying, well, I don't think we'd have anything on file still. Is so-and-so still in the band? And he said yes. And he's like, well, I definitely wouldn't have anything on file.
Wow.
Ooh, I wonder,
that's harsh. But
there may have been. Oh, yeah. I think there may have been some things that we weren't even aware of. We were playing Calgary one time. These guys came in suits. Never seen this before. We've got, lots of bikers and things like that all over the years and never had a problem because, if you have a little thing called respect, you do pretty good. These guys came in suits. It's like Men in Black or something. And they wanted to know if this certain person was there. And we said, no, he hasn't been with the band now for a year or two. And they're like, you sure? And then they laughed, but I don't think we could have helped the guy in that case that time. It's like, I don't know. And another time, a good Steve Gore story, we were out with Sudbury. And this bartender guy just started feeding the drinks to Steve Gore, just giving him free alcohol. But he did not realize how much Steve could drink, for one thing, either. And so he's handing the drinks to Steve. And then it comes out later that he realizes that
Steve's not the guy
Steve's not the guy he thought he was, because he was he thought that he was somebody else, and whatever situation happened in the past, and he was going to get Steve drunk and possibly get him back to his place, and he was going to get a thumping. But it turned out that
he couldn't afford to get him drunk.
Yeah, well, he had the wrong guy anyway. But it's pretty amazing when you hear some of these things that come out later that you're not even aware of. You know, that bridges. One time we were playing a Walk of Fame ceremony too, and so at the Walk of Fames, you know, there was always like Sheila Copps, the Heritage Minister, and obviously the Mervishes, and Belinda Stronach was
Al
on.
Waxman was on the.
Al Waxman was there. He was a nice guy too, really nice guy. And then Bill Ballard, and Bill Ballard was just a fantastic guy. And we never got the chance to go out and have an eating contest with him, but apparently he'd probably bury us. He could eat, apparently. Just a great guy. And anyway, we were talking to him, and he said, you guys, you shouldn't have played that Clear Channel event. So we had this opportunity to open for like the Tea Party, Sloan, the Headstones, I think Edwin, and then they had on the smaller stage ourselves and Grindig. I don't remember. There's probably 3 or 4 bands. And so he said to us, you shouldn't have played that gig, because House of Blues gave us all these Edge Fests and Snow Jams, and they've been in our corner, and you don't jump. You don't do that. There's a thing called loyalty and stuff. Well, it wasn't up to us. We had management, and this was a great gig for us. We got tons of radio play.
You also don't know who specifically runs which events, right? I mean, some of that is.
So we weren't in charge of the booking and stuff. Now, down the road, we've had so many things that there's going to be some things that are hard to talk about the book, because, you know, we still don't want to burn bridges, but we've had situations where, you know, Mummy's working with us, and so is Daddy, and they neither one want the other one to know that they're working with you, and so then somebody else wants to work with you. So it was awkward because you can't tell them that we're actually doing something secretly with this guy, and so it's very awkward. How can I do this? And that's happened to us a couple times in our career too, you know. And we did the right thing and did the political thing, but ended up didn't work out anyway. You know, we tried to do the political right thing, and because it's a sensitive business. If you rub somebody the wrong way in this business, it's true. The doors will all be closed. And
oh yes, politics rule. You were saying about meeting your heroes and stuff, and we joke around this business and call it a 5-minute charm. And because some guys have it, you know, down to a art, they shake your hand, pat your back, come in, and blah blah blah, and you watch them go around the room. And we were doing a big wrestling event one time, and a wrestler came in. I won't see who it was. He was a nice guy, but he had this polished down. Hey, good, looking good. Really proud to work with you and all this. And he just, you know, he had all the lines memorized. But when we were playing, you had a list of questions that we haven't even dabbled on yet.
This is the first episode where we're an hour in, and I don't need the list at all. I don't need a single question, because we know each other. So it's just a conversation, which is all good. We want to dive into this. I was going to say, you know, I would normally say you should write a book about all these stories, but you are writing a book, so you're already on top of it.
Well, the book's going to be great because we said Ron McLean has forwarded it. He's already written that. We've got some great quotes, and Glenn Healy's writing the first chapter because Glenn's a good buddy of ours, and he's seen us at our best and our worst, and he's a funny guy and everything else. We got great quotes, whatever else. And then, you know, we got the video side of it with all the testimonies in that. But going back to your question that you asked, the one question you said, who would you want to have lunch with if you could? And I joked around and I said, I think I'd say Gordie Howe, because when we were playing the Walk of Fame,
Mr. Hockey.
I'm a big hockey fan, and I, you know, grew up close to Detroit and always liked Gordie and the whole bit. And so when we were playing the Walk of Fame, well, we were taking pictures and we were on TV and we had a little bit of clout and this and that, and Gordie didn't know who we were or anything else. But anyway, so he comes over to us and he said, you guys are doing it right. He said, you give people time, and time is worth more than money. He said, you guys you'll make an impact. And we were having a great conversation, and another good friend of ours, I won't say who it was, came right in and pushed us out of the way and had wheelbarrow full of stuff to sign for his nephew and his mom and his aunt and whatever else. And that was the only time that I got to talk to Gordie Howe or meet it. Well, I met him at a charity hockey game when I was a little kid. And
you could use a few more minutes with him, I think.
I could have used a few more, but
what is the best is when you get to spend, like we got to spend a fair amount of time with Mr. Dress, Ernie Coombs. And we were playing a gig one time down Jackson's Point. So they'd bring all the CBC celebrities there. Tommy Hunter'd be there. And the one year Great Big Sea was performing, and Jan Arden was there the one year. I don't remember.
Tell the Bare Naked Ladies story?
Well, you can tell that one in a minute. And so one of the stars came into the event, and Rob said to Mr. Dressup, he said, that's the third time I've met that guy. And Mr. Dressup said, oh yeah, he's a and so we were joking around that we kind of got Mr. Dressup to swear a little bit, and so that was funny. But to get to hang out with somebody like a Mr. Dressup or a John Allen Cameron, if you remember John Allen, my God, we had so much fun with that guy. He'd be up to 5 and 6 in the morning with you still. And so it means more. Like Wayne Gretzky gave us 45 minutes backstage one time.
Wow.
So when you actually get some real time, not just like, hey, nice to meet you and move on, it means a lot. But if somebody said to us once, what was better, meeting the Queen or the King with Wayne Gretzky, whatever, right? And we said, well, obviously meeting the Queen was awesome.
Can't disrespect the Queen, but yeah.
Oh man, and it made our mom very proud. It was one of the greatest moments of our life. Our mom is very Irish and Scottish, and she does love the Queen and all that. So that was like a moment that we'd really accomplished something. Like, I can't remember the name of the band, but it was a big band like the Goo Goo Dolls or something. They said their parents finally acknowledged their career when they got to meet the president. Wow. And so it was kind of like that, that was a really good moment for us. So like,
I feel like the Queen would be a Canada Day event. Is that correct? Yeah. So Canada Day in Ottawa is a big deal. There's like, not during COVID time. So normally there's like 300,000 people walking the streets, and they have like Nickelback playing, Sarah McLachlan. They have the biggest Canadian bands in the world. And my uncle works for the government, and he's on the arts side, and he used to help organize. And I believe he had a hand in organizing that year with the Queen. And I have another friend who is a bass player in my band back in the day. His dad is at the top of the RCMP, and I believe he was the guy that walked her out. So I have a few inside connects with that year with the Queen at Canada Day, Parliament Hill.
Well, that was amazing because they said there was 80,000 people in the park, and then as the camera crews and the news, it somehow became 130,000. It just came bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But Sand embarked on us at the Red Barn Theater. We used to do this thing every year for literacy. And Peter Zwoski, that was the editor of Maclean's magazine, he had the Morningside Radio on CBC. He was a great guy. He had the voice and the scruffy beard, and he passed away a few years ago there, and Canada just all embraced him when they had great things to say. So he'd do this thing at the Red Barn, and he'd get all the CBC people and bands and stuff to donate their time. So we were on that card 2 or 3 times, and like Sandy said, Great Big Sea and Jan Arden and Blue Rodeo and Tommy Hunter, great people. And the whole attraction to this event is people pay like $100 a ticket. They see a good show, but then afterwards Molson gives some free beer, and they can and the stars drink for free. How many times do the average people get to drink with all these different people? So we were on the card, and we've done a lot of shows with the Bare Naked Ladies, and they're fabulous guys. Never really talked to Stephen Page. I don't know what his deal is and whatever else, but he was there that year, and he was having a bad day. He was miserable, and the band was talking to people, and he was just kind of out there because he had to be, kind of thing, right? And these little old ladies come up, and they're like, "Oh my God, Martha, get the camera. This is, oh my God, I love you. Can we get a picture with you?" And he's like, "Oh, okay, whatever," right? So they post the picture, and they take the picture, and the lady goes, "Oh my God, Drew Carey, you're the funniest man ever." And the rest of the Bare Naked Ladies
so bad.
are like,
I get it though. I get it. There is a similarity.
like one time Sandy, when he was thinner and younger, he had a baseball cap on, and they're interviewing him in I don't know, Moncton, New Brunswick or someplace, global television, and it says on the bottom of the television screen, "This is not Garth Brooks." And back when I had the long hair, I was on an interview one time, and they put underneath it says, "This is not a heavy set Kurt Cobain," because I had the long hair back then. I was lighter, but
Here, the good side of that is those are two handsome fellas. I'm just saying,
yes,
right?
yeah,
If they're gonna mix you up with people, it might as well be some really
I
handsome.
think I'd rather be Garth Brooks though than Kurt Cobain. Because,
Well, in Kurt Cobain's, I mean, besides the fact that he killed himself, but when we're talking about his looks, I mentioned this on another episode. My sister growing up had a poster of Kurt Cobain. That was like her heartthrob, you know. As a kid, that's who she loved. So he's got to be kind of handsome, you know.
Well, it's kind of tough with the well, I don't with that I don't know, but the Garth Brooks is supposed to be a great guy in real life. From what we've heard, I don't know about.
he seems like my kind of guy.
But he is supposed to. Yeah, he's supposed to be. We've heard stories of him taking his whole crew out for playing video games and
Pizza.
Lunches and so we've heard he's a really good guy. And for us, that goes a long ways. When we find out that we like somebody, then I think that goes a long ways. It's very disappointing when you do meet somebody, which we've been pretty lucky, but like you said before about meeting your heroes, it's like let me try to think. There was one night we were at a big event, and we good friend of us introduced us also as a hockey guy and want to take a picture. He didn't care to meet us. His head was on a swivel. He was too good for us, And so then the next day when we were playing the big event, and then he sees we're on the actually card. The night before he didn't know anything about us, but the next day when he sees us, talking to other important people, and so he comes by and we took a picture with him, and Rob kind of dismissed him then the next day, where it's like, oh, well, thanks. That was really disappointing though, to meet this guy who I thought, this guy would be a good guy and
blue collar.
And, that was kind of disappointing, like we have stories of fans.
It is tough. I mean, sometimes it's just that they're not, not great people or not very kind. Sometimes, life on the road, sometimes you maybe catch them on the wrong day, right? With little sleep or they're going through a breakup, or you never know what it is.
Fortunately for this situation, where I won't paint a bad picture about hockey and this and that, but as you know, if you watch some of the documentaries, then they get talking about how cocaine was running wild in the 90s, and Bob Probert and everybody was doing it. We were at this party, and Sam goes to me, "Who's that guy over there? He's really familiar." And so I said, "I don't know who you're talking about." He points to Garber, and I'm like, "Geez, he is familiar, this and that." And then it dawned on us that he hangs out at a lot of the Briars and different stuff like that. And he's kind of the party supply guy, right? And party planner, which is called that.
Which the party planner can be very
a lucrative career.
One thing I will say about us, which is another thing that might surprise people, but Rob and I have never even tried weed. So we've drank and we've whatever else, but there's been no drugs absolutely whatsoever at all.
My dogs are on weed.
Yeah, your dogs are on the CBD now, but you never know if the joints get bad down the road for medicinal purposes. But we've actually been, we've hung out with some wild characters, and yet we've never went down that road. Sometimes people won't believe it. I said, listen, man, look what happened when I found cake. I don't need to be, I was supposed to give you the munchies. That's the last thing I need,
Do you think that might be part of the secret to your success for the longevity of you're running close to 25 years now as a band and as a career in the entertainment industry? Do you think that's a big part of it, is you never fell into the trap of the rock star drug scene?
Probably. Yeah,
that would be one of the things there too. Like a lot of times too, if you if you could say no and whatever else, then sometimes people respect you. The guy that doesn't, and there's so many people over the years we've tried to teach, we've had some guys come in the band that still live with their mom, and you warn them and stuff. It's like, listen, when shooters come to the stage, there sometimes they'll present you with the bill afterwards and stuff, and don't don't think that this is free and stuff like that. There's a lot of people setting you up and stuff like that.
And you have to be careful that somebody doesn't spike your drink too. Because you get something handed from you for somebody you don't know. And this happened to a friend of ours one night, and then
I wouldn't go that far to call him a friend.
But I'm thinking of a different story. And then the guy in the crowd was going like this to him, and got his mind spinning, thinking, "Oh my God, what did this guy do to me?" And he made it through the show. And then another guy that was in our band one time, he kind of went down on the stage, and we thought at first he just tripped and it was kind of funny and whatever. He put a hole through Steve Gore's a guitar about that big actually. And anyhow, we thought maybe his drink had been spiked or something then, when everything came around. And you have to be careful. You just don't know. You're there, and we're there 2 nights in a row, and maybe some guy's jealous because he's getting more attention or something. I don't know. And you just never know. But I think there's been guys in the business that have made the mistake too. That's like, oh yeah, I got to be cool. I got to jump on board and do this to prove that I'm cool. And other people have said about us too. It's like, they know they can take us on Canada Tourism. They can take us to all these different places because we're not gonna be a problem. We can pretend to be wild if that's what needs to be done. And we do like to drink and whatever, but we can also be responsible. And it is a business. And I think nowadays, that's very important nowadays.
Gone are the days of Billy Idol driving his motorcycle through the lobby of the Riot Hotel and stuff like that.
Ozzy biting the head off the bat. All those things,
stuff like that. And there's some wild Alice Cooper stories too, and Ted Nugent that I don't necessarily believe, but you never know.
When I was at Metalworks for 7 years, so for our listeners that aren't familiar, it's the number one recording studio in Canada, goes back about 40 years. There's some stories of when Guns N' Roses were recording "Use Your Illusion" there, or was it the Spaghetti Incident? Anyways, I think they did a couple albums there. That there were times where the studio manager had to run after members that were running down the street with not much clothing on to bring them back. So so drugs can make you do things that you wouldn't normally do. But listening to all your crazy stories, there's 2 things that come to mind. Number one is, you guys mentioned before we started recording that this is only maybe your second podcast, into the Zoom world. You guys should have like a story time with Rob and Sandy podcast is something that comes to mind. And then the second thing is, I'm picturing what my life would have been had I been the singer for the Mudmen. I would have been electrocuted. I would have been date raped, drugged. I would have done 6 sets in one day. I'm thinking about the insanity, and maybe things worked out for the best for all of us. What do you think?
Well, it's funny. I mean, during the time Steve Gore was with us, we were pretty good. There wasn't too many there's another great Steve Gore story. We played this terrible place in Saskatchewan.
The poor guy. I'm starting to be pretty empathetic to him.
What happened with Steve Gore? Let Sam tell the story. But when we were rebranding the band, and so we were going more into the theaters, and that we had to prove ourselves. We had to book the theaters ourselves, make the posters, poster the thing, take a chance at this. Now, but when you go to the West Coast and you're playing the Grey Cup, or you're playing a Celtic festival, or you're doing a bunch of stuff like that, to fill the tour in, we had to play some rough bars. So Steve Gore has, he has paid his dues and earns his stripes, because in Ontario, there isn't that many wild Steve Gore stories. When you go out west and you play the Oil Riggers and Fort McMurray, it's like, oh my God, it's like, it was the things we had to do to survive. Playing Monday, Tuesday night in some rough bar, and that's what you did.
So we were playing in this bar, and we came in to play this bar, and the lady that ran the bar had smoked quite a bit, and she said that she's like, it's only happened 2 times in my whole life, but when she met Steve, she got weak in the knees. She almost went down. She thought he was so hot.
He'll get you.
And so we end up hanging out at the bar, Rob and I, and we get back to this place we're staying, which is not good. And anyway, long and short, I'll make it short. The the night that we played, the bar comes to an end, and this guy comes back to the place that we're staying at. It's not like a proper hotel or anything. It's like an old place that oil riggers used to sleep at. It was a big
City hall or something.
City hall or something back in the day. It's not a proper place to. They had a good poker room though. But so anyway, we had a pool table and everything. But we get back after the event, and it's like, oh my God, the lady that's staying there looking after the place, your boyfriend came in there and he got rough with her and threw her all over the place and broke a glass off her head or something. And Steve Gore comes flying down the stairs in nothing but underpants and these Pirate of the Caribbean, like, well, they're Harley Davidson boots, right? But he's got these Harley Davidson boots on. They come up right
looking
up
like Johnny
down.
Depp here.
And in his underpants, no freaking shirt on or nothing, right? And Mario Boza, who's a great guy too. Well, he had he torn he messed up his knee. I can't say the right word. Meniscus. And so he comes down the stairs hobbling, you know, and so they come down to defend this woman. So anyway, Steve Gore is like, you know, Steve was a good guy that way. He's feisty, you know. He's like, so he let the guy know on no uncertain terms, get out and get out now. And so anyway, poor Mario was his backup on one leg. And so anyway, the guy left, and he apparently there was a few other people that met him outside that were friends, and he may got roughed up a little bit, but then he jumped into his truck and went driving down the road crazy, hammered, and our drummer was walking home, and he's walking down the road, and the next thing he goes, oh my God, and this guy almost drove right over him. So he had to go right down the ditch, and the guy put the truck right into a telephone pole and then backed it up. And so he gets back to the place we're staying and says, oh my God, guys, you'll never guess what just happened to me. I almost got ran over by this crazy guy. And so that was,
piece it all together. It's the same guy.
He came in and said, I got the story of the night. And we're like, hey, let's
get in line. Yeah.
Oh, there's been a few times where we were in Saskatchewan again playing this gig, and this one guy, he was crazy, he was nuts. So we had a bunch of Highland dancers and Irish dancers dancing and stuff, and this guy, next thing you know, he's doing handstands with his kilt on with nothing underneath
in the back room. Yeah.
And you know, there's maybe some people that are a little young there, you have to, you know, not appropriate and stuff like that. And the guy was nuts. So Rob comes down to the merch booth and tells me,
fantastic,
I got the story of the night. And I said, I'll bet you don't. And he tells me the story, what was happening up there, the guy doing handstands with, you know, no underwear on. He wanted to play with the band so bad that he would be willing to do some things I won't mention here on air. And but then we came down to the merch booth and he gave me an offer that was so over the top. I'm not going to repeat that either, but Rob's like, okay, you got me beat, you win. But,
it reminds me of when Flea from the Chili Peppers got on stage naked with just the bass covering him. This was at Woodstock when they redid Woodstock later on. Either it was 94 or 2000 or whatever. I think it was 94 and 1999. So it must have been 99. Flea gets on stage just with the bass. And you think, okay, well, at least he's covered. And then he starts doing cartwheels and you're like, oh no. So anyways, that was memorable.
I'm going to tell you, since you wanted to ask a question about this, I'll tell you two wild stories. I shouldn't, but I guess I will. So we were playing a club down in Halifax, and this woman dared a certain member of the band. And the next thing you know, it was like a Zaphods where it becomes a dance club after we play.
Or something.
And so he gets on the stage, and the sound man, somebody told the sound man to put the lights on, and he got fully naked on the stage, and it was over the top. And then he went running down the road
back to the hotel
completely naked. And he did a similar thing in Newfoundland. He got naked on stage. The power went down, and he got fully naked on stage and put a show on. And the Biff Naked's one of her roadies was holding a flashlight on him, and he did a similar thing in England too, where he's running down the street, nothing but a woman's red thong. However, England and Scotland are much different that way, because even in the pipe band back in the day, pipers would come in wearing nothing but that sporran, you know, that kind of purse thing that's in front of you. They'd come walking in with nothing like that, or just a shirt with long tails. And So we saw a lot of wild things even in the pipe bands.
There's no indecent exposure charges laid on any of these.
I don't.
Well,
That's
think
rock
so.
and roll, baby.
Not on them.
When we were in England, we did the tour with
Love Hate.
and so we went through Great Britain and this and that, and then the little record label that signed us over there decided, let's go and we'll take we'll go back to these same towns that we played with the big band, and we'll do some shows in Mudmen will headline and whatever else. And so we actually surprisingly came back and did well the next time. We didn't see any money for that. We got paid $25, 12 pounds a day. This
Paid our own flights over $800 each.
But the band that was
For
open,
the whole band, $25?
No, we got paid
each.
we got paid 12 pounds each,
a day.
but each of us a day, but each of us paid our own flights over. So we spent 800 to go there. So sorry, but
Yeah, my math isn't the best, but if you carry the one, you're not retiring anytime soon.
Because sometimes when you sign these record deals and stuff, you know, the carrot is dangled right there, and it's so close. People would think like, well, why would you do this? How could this happen? You know, but you know, it's like the carrot is so close, I can almost reach it. And so you do these things. Like when we got signed to EMI Records. We were managed by a pretty big manager that managed I'm Mother Earth also. We were booked by Feldman's, Canada's largest booking agency, and we were paid $25 each a show for 4 years. We opened for the Guess Who, 30,000 people, Finger 11, 20,000 people. We had 6 music videos on Much Music. We were number 19 on the Edge Radio, things like that. So you think, oh, there's this hope, you know, you're going to get it
the back
on
end.
the back end, and oh, we got it on the back end, all right.
Yeah,
You know?
it's hard to believe. I'm sure there's a lot of
But at
young
the same
musicians
time-
listening that aren't aware that it's not easy out there. There is money to be made, but you gotta take care of your business.
Sometimes you have to be the captain of your own ship for that to happen, because they want a big debt up. When we split with management, our manager didn't pay our GST and taxes for 4 years. So we had a nice little anvil hanging over our head and stuff like that. And they spend money and you have no control and whatever else. And when people sometimes bug us and say, well, you know, you've done some lineup changes, you say, well, Kiss had 10 different lineup changes, and I think they were getting paid more than $25 a show. And so it's like it's a tough business. And a lot of times, you know, the band you see on television, you think, oh wow, that guy's doing really well. Sometimes the band that'll be playing a Celtic festival and they're a mid card and they're never be on TV. They never have been much on TV or radio or anything else, but they're making more of a living and a better fan base than this guy that's on TV. And you hear stories of country and western singers that are trapped in deals because they get to the last album and the guy says, I want to do an extension. And the guy said, nope, I want out of my deal. And the guy says, okay, I'll just bench you, put you on the shelf, and you can't record ever again. We heard of a great story.
Yeah, you're just stuck in purgatory. It's like the ultimate nightmare of a musician. Yeah.
Because we heard the story about, I can't remember the band now in Toronto there, but
We probably should say their name anyway.
they were trapped and they said they wanted out of their deal, and they said you got to buy it out. So they figured out, you know, what the 10 album deal was and what the interest on that money would be, and you gave them 9, and it was just like, you're gonna sell your house and borrow money. It's not worth doing it. So the one guy came out and did a solo album, and it didn't, the band's stronger than a solo guy, right? And so if I wrote a book, you know, The Adventures of Rob Campbell, our book together is,
Hey, I'd buy it. I got the first copy, but that's not the point you're making.
The great thing about The Adventures of Rob Campbell would actually be better, because fortunately I'm the Ron McLean in the situation. So I usually dial things back and say, oh God, if that's true, but we can't, trust me, we have a chapter too also in the book called Baby on Board. Because you were going to ask us a few questions that way, but like my girlfriend comes home one day and she said, why is there eggshells on the floor? And I said, oh, well, our singer's coming over later. I'm just practicing walking on them now. You know, one time I phoned home on the tour, I said, man, my hands are sore. And she said, why? And I said, oh, I think it's from these kid gloves I've been wearing. Because there's some people that say you have to handle them like children. It's unbelievable. You're on the road and you're touring, and the one guy jumps in to drive the little bus, and it was somebody else's turn to drive. And he had to go for a little walk and a little timeout because he's 20 some years, 28 or something, and it was his turn to drive. And somebody else jumped in the seat, so he's got to go for a little walk now. And it's like, oh my God, Rob has in the book that I've spent more time on the couch than Dr. Phil, because I have to sit there and babysit people. And it's like, oh my God. And I'm not bad at it. Rob, he can't. We came off the stage one time, and a substitute singer said to me, oh, how'd I do? It's like, how did you do? The nerve. I told you to put the sheets up there and just read. Tell the crowd that, hey, I didn't have a lot of notice. I'm not prepared for this, but we're doing her anyway. And I just let them know and read the sheets. And we had a singer that was a king of forgetting lyrics, and you just make it up or mumble but never stop. You just keep on going,
The show goes on.
And yeah. And so if you forget the lyrics, just start making it up or mumble it, but don't stop. And so anyway, he did a very bad job. So anyway, so I said, well, maybe tomorrow you better read the charts, and, tonight you better work on this pretty hard. And so then he goes and he asks Rob. He didn't get the answer from me that he wanted, which I was pretty gentle. And he asked Rob, and Rob's like, he was very blunt. He told him exactly the way it was.
Well, I said to him, do you want the truth or do you want me to lie? And he wanted the truth, which nobody wants to hear the truth. And I kind of spelled it out. You had a good story you were telling the other day somewhere about somebody cutting their hair. Remember that? About
yeah,
you guys have the good cop, bad cop roles in the band, which is good. You need the balance. It's like mom and dad,
because it's really hard because we said we had a guy one time, and they said to him, well, why did you cut your hair? And he said, oh, I don't feel like a rock star anymore. It's like, so Rob and we're right here. So what the hell are you saying? Like, I was at your CD release party for your other band in your hometown. There's 3 or 4 members in your band, and you were only able to come up with 25 friends, and we brought 15 Mudmen fans when we came down. And I mean, the cover was huge. It was 0. The first time I went to check you out, there was 7 people in the bar the night you were playing, and now you're not a rock star playing with the Mudmen, and you're playing Hagersville Rocks with Gord Banford. No, he's not a star. Glass Tiger, Alan Frew, Megan Patrick, an upcoming star, Washboard Union, bands like this. You're playing the Agriplex here in London in the arena, for Christ's sakes. And yeah, you've got to play a lot of not so good gigs too, but it's like you weigh off the good and the bad. It's like, wow.
See, unbelievable. Ron McLean said that to us one time, because we took a meeting with Ron when we were changing direction and wanted to, Ron's been so good to help. He tried to get us overseas with the Army, and we were very close to getting to go over. And the Hockey Hall of Fame was going over there with the Cup, and I think Gretzky was going, and Don Cherry and Ron, and Ron went to bat for us. And then at the last minute, Canada's favorite band, the Tragically Hip, caught wind. They wanted the spot, and we got the phone call from the gentleman saying, guys, I love you, but don't hate me.
Hard to turn down the hip.
But so when we were talking to Ron said, I said, well, we still play Legion halls and whatever we got to do to survive, and we don't really do bars unless we go West Coast, like we said, and you have to play some of these dive bars and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, you have to, and don't worry about it's part of paying the dues.
But when you look back at your career and stuff too, some of the greatest moments were the worst times. And this is why we feel we have a pretty good book to write. We were playing a Walk of Fame ceremony one time. I don't remember who all was on the card. It was Roy Thompson Hall. It was something like Eugene Levy, Martin Short, William Shatner, Gordon Lightfoot, the Guess Who, Paul Schaefer, I don't know if I already said him, Gordie Howe, a whole bunch in one night. So we're coming out as the Campbell Brothers because we hadn't changed the name to Mudmen just yet. And one of the stars was disappointed because he flew in and he didn't have a shower in his room. So nobody else heard this, but I said to Rob, well, we got a shower in our room, but not at home. And we moved into a factory so the band could rehearse for free. It was an old meat locker in the stockyards in Toronto. And we actually had the guy from Roadrunner Records come check us out there that signed Nickelback. That's an interesting story too. Came close. He made the right choice with Nickelback, I think. And but you agree? Come on now. But so
well, the most successful band of the last like 2 decades.
Another thing too is those guys paid their dues. When people wanna, there's some people that maybe they, I don't know their story, but I know theirs, that they went across Canada and they paid their dues. But going back, we're saying here it is, we're playing this huge Walk of Fame ceremony with all these people, and we're living in a factory. We got nothing. And showering at the gym for a year and a half, and they finally recognized us at the gym, not in the shower, but because they saw so much music. So we're on Much Music, and we're doing another gig one time. We're doing landscaping, and the people were working for fantastic people, very rich, have a lot of money. They've got a 5-acre island in Gravenhurst or something like that too. We worked at. So anyway, they see us working, and then Saturday night they go to the hockey game, and there we are on the Jumbotron, those two grubby guys doing landscaping at their house on the Leaf Jumbotron, playing the Leaf Boston game. So we've had some interesting stories of highs and lows. It's like, and we should start cranking through some of these questions.
Yeah,
we can try to be better.
Well, it's kind of the lows that that's where you that's what builds character. The successes are what you want, but it's the hard times and the hardship and the challenges. That's where you grow as a person and as a band. So you need those. That's what defines your career is how you overcame the adversity, and that you're still standing almost 25 years later. I mean, it's all these stories. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I guess before we dive into different questions, for young musicians listening to this podcast, so they're hearing all these crazy stories. It sounds like a lot of fun, but there are stories where you're not getting paid what you're worth, and challenges. For those young musicians that have this burning desire in their heart to have a career in music, that it's for the love of music, and they believe that if they put in their time and they work on their craft and they develop a skill, they have something of value to offer, that they can find a way to make a living doing this. What advice would you guys give to those people to navigate these waters?
Well, number one, we had a lady give us some very good advice years ago. And she said, you can, perfect your music and everything in your garage or wherever you're doing it, but just get out there and do it. Just go and do it. Whether you want to try stand-up comedy or whatever, just get on the stage and fail miserably, whatever, but just do it. And another thing, what we did, what made us successful, because you have to think, for starters, we think that we're an interesting story because we play an unpopular instrument. When you turn the radio on, tell me how many times you hear the bagpipes. So we had to make a home for ourselves. But the one thing that we did is we went out and we approached, the Irish Rovers. Well, Rob just got talking to them, and again, being friendly. And next thing you know, we're playing with the Irish Rovers for free, because this is an opportunity for you. You don't get paid for this.
But you're cutting your teeth.
You're cutting your teeth, and this is a huge opportunity. So we're getting to play Hamilton Place and these big gigs with the Irish Rovers. And then the Irish Rovers gave us, a mark on our card that we went up to John McDermott one day, and we were talking with John. And next thing you know, we have credibility because we played with the Irish Rovers. Well, then we're playing with John McDermott a lot. And John McDermott got us into Need Fire with the Mervish production with Denny Doherty of the Mamas and Papas and himself and whatever. And that was our whole career right there. Once we had that moment to showcase ourselves, but it was all through networking and getting to know these people. And we did play for free. You can't expect, when we played on the Doug and Bob 2-for anniversary special on the CBC, they phoned us up. They couldn't, this is another great story. They couldn't even find us. The 3 Canadian stars, Ian Thomas phones up Murray McLaughlin because he'd seen us at Murray's house before. And he said, how could I contact the Campbell brothers? And Murray McLaughlin said, phone John McDermott. So they phoned John McDermott. John has to phone our mom to find us because we moved so many times. We're living in a factory where you have to phone the shop number to get a hold of us. We didn't have a phone and things like this. We had we did at one point, in stockyards. But so we went to play on Doug and Bob 2-for anniversary special. And how much do you think we got paid to do that? And this is after a lot of success. All the music.
I don't even want to guess because it's going to be a heartbreaking number.
Case of beer each.
Well,
It
that's
was
better. That's
fantastic.
better than I expected.
It was fantastic. We had a great time. We had to take a day off work, so we actually lost money to do it. We had a great time, and you're making contacts, and that's what it's all about. You gotta make the contacts. It didn't cost us anything to do this. Just, well, we missed some work. We didn't want to go to work anyway.
I got to meet Gregory Hines that day because he was doing a Ritz commercial down the hallway, and I think that was who it was. He was a nice guy.
And so I think, you have to have tenacity. You can't just give up. Today's a different world, though, too. So we're a little outdated for trying to help. But I still believe the same formula applies, that you got to have tenacity. You never give up. Don't be afraid to find your own wallet if you want to make it, too. Because Rob and I don't do what we did. We crippled ourselves financially, and we overextended. So don't do that. Don't quit the day job. You need that day job doing what you don't want to do to have the money to do what you do want to do. If you don't have money, the wheels of the van can't tour. Also, start your little radius small. So if you live in London or whatever, start it small and then just keep growing. Don't go and start a whole bunch of fires like we did too, where you go way out to BC, and we're very popular in Alberta and Saskatchewan and down to Halifax and even to Newfoundland and England. And you got a whole bunch of fires, and you got to keep stoking the fires, and touring is very expensive. So I'd say, start small and just keep expanding out, but don't get one of these big ideas of, we're going to tour across Canada. Don't do that. That will financially hurt you very badly. You also have to find a group of people that you can get along with. It's very important to have people that you are actually friends with, that you can get along with, and you have to
surround yourself with good people.
Yeah. And you have to be friendly. If you're not going to be friendly and nice to these people,
somebody in the band has to, that like when you watch the documentary Hired Guns, and Alice Cooper talks about 3 years for a band member in his group is a long time. And it's like, wow, here's a legend and great music and all that good stuff. Then Rob Zombie comes in, which I'm not familiar with his music, but he's a legend. I know that. And he says, okay, there's 100 people that are qualified to play in my band that play guitar. Out of that 100 people, 50 people have the look and can actually play. And out of that 50 people, there's 3 that I actually can get along with and talk to. And we've heard horror stories of big bands where, they won't even talk to their band members. I won't drop any names or nothing. We've been on Country Fest where a big guy comes out and he's like, I drew a line on the stage with tape, and if they cross that line, you tell me, I'll fire whatever, right? Because he's got the whole ego.
There's a safe zone. That's funny.
So I was joking around. Our new lineup here, Alex is a funny guy, and he was making up a stage plot. So I said, are you gonna make the stage plot up like so and so and put Colin out front, and if anybody crosses that line, then we're going to be penalized and stuff like that. And we had so much fun in the early days with different lineups. So I think this new lineup we got right now, I think we're going to have a lot of fun with these guys, because our singer Colin Amy loves hockey. He's a blue collar guy. He's had great success in the past with his own solo career in country music, and it's refreshing that we tell people, people are talking about bringing us back, and we said, okay, COVID, if it happens, just to let you know, we got a new singer. And they go, I know, and he's fantastic. So he comes to the party with great credentials in a past, that's refreshing. And we've got 3 guys in the band, Andy Gingrich and Alex Shodra and Jordan Brousseau, that all graduated music majors from Western, Humber, Mohawk, Wilfrid Laurier. I don't know. They've all,
like we said, our drummer he's like a human metronome, and it's so nice. Like we actually played in, competitive piping and stuff like that. And we played with some of the greatest bagpipers in the world. So like when we played in the 78th Frasers, that would be like playing on, the 84 Gretzky, Oilers team, And so right now playing with these guys, it's like, this is amazing, because like they're all so talented. And I think we're going to end up being, better than we ever were, to be honest. But
I'm excited for some upcoming dates. I mean, you probably had some stuff lined up, and now Ontario is just on lockdown. I mean, I can't I can't walk into a restaurant and sit down. I can't go to the gym. Gym is shut down. It's yeah, it's tough. But when things open up again, you guys will hit the road.
Oh, yeah. Well, our March is very full, of course. Now we got to start booking a little harder here, but we're going to be playing Havelock Country Jamboree again. And we were supposed to play it last year, and Lucknow Music in the Fields and Boot Hill. And so we've got some pretty good festivals lined up for the summer. Kincardine Highland Games, of course, and there's an interesting one too, where Friday, Saturday, we come out and we got to be wild. We got to give them the juice, because we get put on like after the Trues in bands like this. And so, yeah, that's a tough gig to go on.
They know how to put on a good show. I've seen them probably 5 times. They're amazing.
Yeah, they're one of my, I'd say, one of my favorite, current bands of the day. They're fantastic.
They're brothers there too, right? The Mcdonald Brothers? Yeah. Or is that why you like them? There's the brother connection.
Well, that's how I'd always like to talk to. You talked about I Mother Earth earlier, and of course,
the Tana Brothers.
Chuck, we knew Chuck because of the salads and everything. But yeah, I'd love to talk to them, because they were managed by the same manager. And when Edwin separated and went on his own, then our manager was still managing Edwin and picked us up. And so there are a couple guys we'd always like to, because we heard great stories about them, that they were guys that were smart about the business. They didn't throw their money around and waste it on stupid things. And I think they have stories of living in their rehearsal studio, which we have huge respect for. It's like when you actually pay your dues, and, I really don't care about the bling bling, all that crap. I suppose it'd be all right, but I'm more interested in people than I am.
You're not going to buy the new Michael Jordan on Nike hockey skates? Have you seen them?
No. Is that real?
Yeah, it's apparently that's limited edition. I saw it on Facebook the other day, and I'm like, this can't be real. So
I want to see is Michael Jordan actually skate in those to see.
I wouldn't.
He's pretty competitive. I bet he would just go out and take lessons, and he'd be able to skate pretty well. Anyway,
I bet he's a natural, because when you watch that documentary that they did on the Bulls there, that 8-part series, that was fantastic. If you get a chance to watch that.
Yeah, he has a monomaniacal focus on one thing, which is what made him great.
Yeah, that is a great word. You know what I saw the other night that was amazing? I watched this movie. I'm not going to say it was the greatest movie that I've ever watched in my life. It had a nice story to it, but I thought it could have been a little funnier, but it was all right. But the greatest scene in the movie was when Shaquille O'Neal was in the hospital dancing with his bare ass hanging out of the thing. I just died laughing.
What movie is this?
Uncle Drew. And so it's got a good storyline to it, but that particular scene is like, oh my God, because Shaquille O'Neal, the guy's a star. He should have been. There's a guy that'd be nice to meet. 7 foot, what is he, 2 or
7'4"?
You see his commercial on Instagram for the printer, and he's like, hello Canada, and it's like hockey, love it. He's missing a tooth, and it's like poutine, whatever else. And the guy's he was on wrestling a while ago there in AEW, and he wrestled, and he shocked me, because
what about Snoop Dogg though?
Snoop Dogg was good too. We almost got to do a gig with Snoop Dogg a long time ago. That's a long story, and that was very disappointing that fell through.
I was gonna say with Shaquille O'Neal, I don't think there's a person alive that has more product placement or sponsorship deals than Shaquille O'Neal. But then you mentioned Snoop Dogg, and he's right up there as well. I've seen both of those guys in security commercials, in wrestling, in medicine when you have a cold, selling whatever blenders and toasters. It's crazy.
Like what you mentioned earlier was The Rock. It's like, my God, again, the guy walks in, he's got a big smile. You can't help but like this guy before he does anything. Saturday Night Live, he proved he was so funny that I actually like him in the comedy roles better than the tough guy roles.
I think if you ever follow him on Instagram or social media, he has to be the hardest working man on the planet. And I personally, I've liked him since the wrestling days. He might be the most charismatic person in the world.
And he's got a hell of a story too. When you actually look, there's a guy
CFL baby. There's a Canada background on that.
Oh, he was a guy that I think they got kind of, I don't know, they had to leave the island of Samoa or whatever. His dad was the big famous wrestler, Rocky Johnson, that was tag champions with Tony Atlas back in the day. And he was playing football and he got dropped, right? Yeah. And then he went up to Canada for the CFL, Calgary. And he got dropped. And so he went back home, and they called him back, and he said, I don't think I'm going to go back.
Yeah, $7.
He had like $7 on him or something. He decided he wanted to become a wrestler. His dad did not want him to become a wrestler because he knew just how hard that business. And another thing is, I'll say right now, for anyone who wants to make fun or laugh at wrestling, it is so hard on your body, where they say like Hulk Hogan has lost 3 inches in height or something from that stupid leg drop. And
that was a good move.
Yeah, well, he says he regrets it now. But when you look at the amount of broken necks, like Stone Cold broken neck, Lita broken neck, Draws in a wheelchair broken neck, the British Bulldog's been in a wheelchair for years. The amount of injuries, that you have to respect what those guys go through and put their bodies through. And if you don't, come on down to Tilsonburg, and we'll introduce you to a few guys, and you can get body slammed and suplexed around the ring a few times, and you can find out just how nice that planking, the springs, that planking feels when you land on there.
What did Kurt Angle always talk about? That I won a freaking gold medal with a broken neck, whatever, right?
Something true. He was another guy too. Funny. I loved it. Same as like Christian, when he went the heel and the kind of crybaby route. He was amazing. Same as you can't have the good guys without the bad guys. So, when you look back as an adult, as a kid, I was like, I don't watch wrestling much now, but as a kid, I rooted for the good guys. But then you get to be an adult, and it's like, wow, without the Iron Sheik and Jake the Snake and some of those bad guys.
When we were talking wrestling, you were talking about meeting your icons and people you respect and look up to and stuff. And we said over the years, we hear stories about, damage that was being done we weren't even aware of and stuff. We witnessed this a couple times that, if guys don't respect wrestling, okay, that's fine and dandy. But, when you get to meet the wrestler, don't be bellying up there telling your story. And so we got to play the one Mike Bullard show, and Booker T was on the card. Well, no one told us. I would have bought a camera. Booker T's fantastic. And so we get talking to him, and we said to him, well, we love wrestling. We're kind of without television. We're living in a factory. I've been there, man. He was great. We were bonding with the guy, talking to whatever else. And one of our band members came in and did the old Roadhouse thing. Oh, I thought you'd be bigger or whatever, right? And then he's like, is this guy with you? And it's like, unfortunately. And Booker T wandered off. We didn't see him again. And then we were at the Junos the one year, and Trish Stratus and Chris Jericho were just making it big in the WWE. So at the Junos, as you know, because you were on the committee or something at one point.
Yeah, I was a judge for the Juno Awards.
Yeah,
they have. Well, that's why we never won.
Yeah, come on.
Hey, it was Songwriter of the Year. And you guys weren't in the nomination, so I couldn't. I don't choose the nominees. I choose the winner.
And
you have to apply.
You got to remember, we never nominated ourselves like other people did, right?
Yeah, we never paid.
Actually, you couldn't. There'd be no category for us. I think they took away the indie stuff. And I mean, when you take a look at the Junos, sometimes it's a tragedy that I don't think Amanda Marshall ever got one. And she was amazing. I
was thinking of her the other day. I saw her as a kid after the Tragically Hip concert, and man, she had that one album with like 4 massive hits. And I like Let It Rain or whatever. I had some of her songs in my head like the other day after 20 years, and I couldn't remember who it was. And then it hit me, and then you bring her up. So maybe that means I should go listen to her again.
Oh yeah, she had that one song. Right? Was it called Tomorrow's Child or something like that?
Yeah, that was the second album. Yeah.
Somewhere there's a river. And even the video is so great. It shows this little kid all the way from birth to the mom making his lunch to go to school, and he's running the race of life. And then she's giving him somebody's handing him the diploma from college, and he goes on until he's an old man himself. And that was a great song. And John
embraced that one. He thought that was just great.
But she had such a powerful voice, and
she had the whole package.
She should have.
There's a great story about her. That she's a prankster, and on the road people say to you, well, how do you guys survive and stuff? And it's like, we prank the hell out of each other. Now there's a period of time there for, if you wonder why, you ask me in an email when our last album was. It was like 2016 or 15 or something like that. Well, there was a reason why we were in a little bit of a drought. Sometimes, I always joke around and said, do you believe in Christmas? Because there's the naughty list, there's the bad list, and there's the hard to work with list. And we were sitting in that hard to work with list situation. And that's why we did the coloring book and the trivia book, just to kick out some new stuff. And we actually had the best Celtic rock and only coloring book of 2020.
There's no competition in that.
Exactly. That's how you win. What do you call that? The Guinness World Book of Records. You enter something that's never been done yet before, and you win. So anyway,
the pioneers, the Mudmen.
I forget where I was going with this. I thought I had a
Amanda Marshall.
Oh yeah, so you're pranking people out. And Amanda Marshall, they said one time, was touring England, and we got to do the classic albums one time and stand up and do A Long Way to the Top with the band there, and they had an all-star band, and Tim White from the Headstones, who we know, and Trent from the Headstones, who we know, and I don't know if Randy Cook was on drums but it was all-star cast, and we got to meet her guitar player, fantastic guy. And they said to him, could you imagine your house burning down today and being in this happy of a state? And he goes, well, it's more flood damage than burnt down, whatever, right? He was a fantastic guy. So he was telling us the story. He said, oh yeah, touring with Amanda, she's great and she's a lot of fun. And we were over in Germany, and they said there's a big storm coming. We changed plans, this and that. And this is where, the one guy we're talking about that's hard to work with. He was a control freak. He had his day planned out, routine, time management, and the rock and roll business changes like that, whatever, right? And so anyway, this guy did his laundry and in his hotel room. He had it all draped out, and he gets the call, we're going to the next town. So he puts it in the garbage bag, and they get in the bus and go to the next town. He forgets about it, and Amanda's the last one off the bus, and she takes it in, and she said to the hotel, do you have a freezer? She put the bag in the freezer. And so then the next day, he's like, where did they park the bus? I left my laundry. I'll have to rewash it and hang it out. She goes, oh, I brought an in for you. I'll go get it. Brought the bag back, and it's just big circle, solid bag of whatever, and a stage shirt and everything's in there. But
we said we had so much fun. Like, Rob is actually the king of pranks, and so at one time they were doing a sticker wars.
Oh God!
And so every time we go into a place and had those little sticker machines, they'd have to play the game, and so whoever got their hockey team first was the winner. So anyway, we got all these hockey stickers all over the van, and so anyway, Rob started going. He went to the dollar store and he bought some. It's your story. You should tell it.
So we were doing it, and like we said, Al, that was our banjo player, is a fantastic guy, and he's a big Leaf fan. So he was waiting to get that Leaf sticker to put on his banjo case. So all the stickers that he would buy would end up on the van or my pipe case or somewhere else. And I'm more of a players guy, that I've rooted for numerous teams because I'm a big Dale Hunter fan, so I like the Nordiques and Washington and stuff like that. So I'm kind of I don't know.
Yeah, when Steve Thomas got traded by the Leafs, Rob said, I'm rooting for Chicago this year because Steve Thomas was such a nice guy,
So I didn't mind putting the stickers on my case and stuff like that. So anyway, so then we're going through periods of time where we weren't finding these little machines you put the loonie in. So I went to the dollar store and I had My Little Pony and Britney Spears and all kinds of fun stuff. And so we were opening up for George Canyon. George is a fantastic guy. We know most of his band, and they're good guys. And so we're playing the Commonwealth Stadium, and Sam and I have to get out quick, get the guys back to the hotel, get to the airport. We're flying to Ottawa to play for the Queen, and we're there for a whole week of rehearsals and interviews and stuff like that. So we get done, and I'm bad for pranking people. And prior to this, we were playing a gig, and I said to Sam, take out of the bar and buy him a drink. And I took his banjo out and I filled it with peanuts, like those ones you pop, they pop, pop, pop. So he opens up his case. He's like, hey, Robbo, where's my banjo? I'm like, you got to quit playing for peanuts, whatever, right? And so the rest of the tour that week, I'd be getting peanuts in my pocket, my spore, my pipe case. Well, the end that week, we were with George Canyon, and we're playing at the gold medal ring for the Olympics, where they're giving, Sid the Kid and Flurry and all the hockey players get their big medallion thing. So we get to open up for George. So we get done. Sandy goes to grab the van and trailer to come into the Commonwealth Stadium. Told the band guys, our dressing room is at the far end of the stadium. referee's room, take everything, put it in a pile, and we'll load it. So we're waiting for Sam to come in with the van and trailer, and Alice goes to me, "Where's my banjo?" And it's like, I haven't seen it. I really haven't seen it. And it's like, so anyway, Al did win the sticker war, and he had the leaf sticker on the case. So anyway, I said, "You better go on George Canyon's bus because maybe they took an accident." "Oh no, they wouldn't do that." And I said, "You better go on there. If I go on there, I'm a bigger guy and whatever. I might be a little more imposing. It's your banjo. If you go on there, you're a funny guy." So he goes on the bus, and he was a really good guy, and he would get laughing so hard he'd snort. And he get on the bus. He goes, "Is George still here?" And they said, "No, George left. He's gone." And he's like, "Well, by any chance, did you take my banjo?" And it's got a Toronto Maple Leaf sticker on it. And they go, "Nice try, kid." George is a big Leaf fan, and his banjo case has a Maple Leaf sticker on it. And he goes, "Well, does his have a My Little Pony sticker on it?" And they like, "My Little Pony?" And they said, "Could you look?" And they went back in the trailer, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, kid." So he comes back into the circle, and he's got it over his head at the stand. They call My Little Pony, and we pranked him out, and he loved it. Thought that was just a good My Little Pony sticker saved his goddamn banjo. So it's like
he had a car amazing. That his trunk wouldn't close properly, so it was not locked. So it was just kind of clipped down, and of course we knew that, so we'd keep putting items in there, empty pizza boxes and things, and then they'd end up back. We'd receive them back, and so we had. And the two of the guys, Mario and Al, they had these wrestling masks and stuff too, and they'd be doing. Al did this stint one time. He should have been an actor, and he's like, he was calling himself. He was an Italian guy, and he was calling himself Alex Agrando or something like that. Yeah. And he's got this wrestling mask on. He says, "Oh, Campbell Brothers, tonight I will get you." He says, "Alex Agrando is coming for you," and he says, the Campbell Brothers, they said, "Alex Agrando, why you call yourself so grand when you're so small?" He's just so funny back and forth.
There's not a boring day in the life of the Mudmen.
We went through a few spans where
that's true.
We went through a span with a lineup where we couldn't get an album out, we couldn't get new material out. It was so bad that the fans were laminating set lists and throwing them on the stage during the set because the set list was exactly the same. And so we went through periods of time where it wasn't so fun, but when you get the right characters, oh my God.
So going back to the original question, make sure you get the right people in your group, because the years of fun that we've had, it's like, man, we have stories that it's like I said before, some of the worst times are the best times. And I told this story on stage in Peterborough one time because Troy was in the crowd. And so I told a story on him with his new wife there and everything. And so we were playing the Red Dog in Peterborough, and Troy, it was his birthday, and he drank a lot. So he's going down the stairs and kind of got going too fast and put a hole in the wall and the drywall there. And so now we're driving home, and he's drank too much, and we're going down the highway, and we stopped at the Tim Hortons again. See Tim Hortons, and we stopped at the Tim Hortons, and he gets a bagel in the Tim Hortons. And
it's got a mortar joint on it for
it's got a lot of cream. So we were going down the road, and he puts his window down a little bit, and I said, "Troy, this isn't the first time Troy's barfed. He almost fell out over what's the name of that bridge in Vancouver?
Oh God, what is it?
The big, huge bridge. I got a transport truck behind me, and the doors fly open, and Dylan's holding him by the belt, and he's barfing everywhere outside the van." And so anyway, his window comes down a little. He's in the front seat, and I said, "Troy, do you need me to pull over?" No, I'm okay, buddy. I'm all right." So next thing you know, he puts his chin over top of the window, and he barfs all down the side of the van and everything. But he's got the window there. He's a pro. None of it came inside. So then he goes like this, and he takes his coffee, takes a swig, and he barfs again. And the wind catches it, and it goes all up the ceiling of the van, and hits me in the face. I'm in the driver's seat, comes right across. I get nailed. Everybody behind got laced with some Troy barf in the face. And we got home, and the first thing Rob and I had to do at like 4 or 5 in the morning was clean the inside of the van. The time we drove home from Peterborough, dropped everybody off and got to Oakville. And so we cleaned the inside of the van out, and then we didn't clean the outside of the van. I think there was a chunk of tomato or something hanging on one of the hinges. Our roommate at the time came out and almost vomited just looking at the side of the van. So but those are the best stories. It might not be that pleasant at the time, but those make for the
you look back on those memories pretty fondly. I have another quote here from someone that knows how to have a good time on the road. This is from Darren Mr. D from the Salads.
Okay.
So here's a quote. I reached out to mutual friend. He says, it's been a long time since I've seen those brothers, but I would like to thank them for introducing me to Lonnie Knapp, who is currently in 2 bands with me. And I'd like to congratulate them on still giving her for so long. You guys are still giving her. So that's from Darren Mr. D. Mr. D.
Both guys actually played for our EMI first release ever CD party back in the Reverb in Toronto way back when. We've done some shows. Haven't seen the guys since Port Burwell, which
and we did a whole we did that cigarette tour, the McDonald Export A cigarette tour. Another good lesson for young kids. When you get an interview and you're doing the Export A thing, and one of your people in your group says, don't smoke, kids. Now I agree, don't smoke, but when you're doing the McDonald Export A thing, you don't say that. That's not a good thing to say, that's
not congruent with the brand.
Yeah. And so sometimes, you have to you got to go with the flow. So anyway, but we did that whole tour with them. There was a great story one time too where we gave their dancer a ride home all the way from, was it Windsor or something? Yeah. All the way home from Windsor. And gave him a ride the whole way home. And, he hardly talked the whole damn drive, So we got home and we had to actually ask him, to speak so he could tell us where he lived, to drop him off at his house. And
he's just a really weird guy. You remember in the early days, he had that breakdancing guy that would
dance in the music videos.
And he would go live on the thing, and our guys there that were in the glory day lineup there would be spilling beer and spitting on the floor, and he'd have to break dance on it and the whole bit. But yeah, we said to him at one point, we said, we're doing you a favor. If you can't speak up, I'll just open the door right here and you get out and whatever. So I'm going home. It's like, you're not coming with me.
But I don't think he went in the next tour with him either. But we were reversing. One night we'd headline, the next night the Salads would headline, and those guys knew how to have fun. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I'd call actually that would be a great double bill with you guys, because you're both like party bands essentially. You're there to have a good time.
Oh yeah, we were. But again, like we said, sometimes you do have to reel it back. And now we have a good time, but you have to be. And it's still business. And
in the early days, like we said, we get people all the time bugging us, hey, can we open up for you? And my usual line is like, good to hear from you after 15 years, right? And but when we were younger, like Great Big Sea, we've done some shows with those guys, and they're a fabulous band. And Alan Doyle is one of the greatest frontmen, in my opinion, that Canada's ever produced. And but we talked to them about opening up, and they're like, less is more, and get in, get out, and this now. And that's what we're finding with the theaters, whether we're the promoter or someone else is the promoter, that you rent the hall for an 8-hour block. There isn't time to showcase 2 bands, and get in, get out. People have so much money to spend, so much attention span, and so we're becoming that band in the longest of time now. The last 9 or 10 years, we've hardly opened up for anybody,
and we've hardly had anyone open for us, right? So it's doing the theaters, I mean, they're great gigs, but it's not quite as not quite as much fun as the good old days. But those guys, like, it's amazing how much success they had with that one hit they had there too. With
when I'm up, I can't get down.
The Salads, but
I thought you were still on the Great Big Sea. Alan Doyle is someone else that's released a book with stories.
A couple books,
3 or 4. Yeah, he did a book during COVID, How to Survive COVID, and I saw him in Walmart, and I thought about picking it up. And I thought, I'd be here next, that was last Christmas. And I came back, and I don't know if it's like, limited edition out, and you print so many to be a bestseller, and then it goes away kind of thing. And I should have picked it up just to see what was he talking about, because he's such a socialist that, there's so many stories about him playing a show, and then he'll just go crash the bar that hired them when no one else would in the city, and jump up and play with the band and drink beer and whatever else. So we haven't seen him in years. but I don't think he'll ever
But
change.
he's a
Someone
social,
that just truly loves the music and loves the
and he's
people.
a sociable guy. And I mean, like when Mark Critch there from This Hour Has 22 minutes and
geez,
stuff
that was
imitates him and stuff. Oh my God, that's amazing. And he came on the show himself as well too, and and made fun of himself, and there again, he's just, he's proven that what a great front person he is, and people love him.
And you were saying about kids and advice and stuff. He said one thing that was the greatest piece of advice whatever you want to say, but he said one time, you never see the same show twice, from me or Great Big Sea or whatever he was touring with at the time. And he said, because we'll never make the same mistakes twice. And Gene Simmons said it one time, on this TV show, and you hit the wrong chord and you don't show the crowd that whatever else, you do the old hockey penalty box where they can read your lips. You hit it and say, yeah, I meant to do that, and you sell it and whatever else. And sometimes, being the character, you look at Ronnie Hawkins, you piped him in for the Walk of Fame, and Ronnie's got some great songs, but his character foreshadowed his music. It was just like,
he was the first one to do the moonwalk, I think. Did you know that?
Before
Ronnie
Michael
Hawkins?
Jackson?
Yeah, like Ronnie Hawkins is another one that we've talked to him a few times. We'd like to get him to say something for the documentary, but he was such a character back in his heyday. If you ever watched that documentary on his life, where he just before they thought he was going to die, of course, right? And he didn't. And so it's pretty funny. He's like, oh yeah, I went and spoiled the ending. It's like, how'd you do that? Well, I didn't die. Right. So he's great.
We're actually at the 2-hour mark already.
Wow.
I know we're having a good time. We have so many stories to share. Are you guys cool if we do a few rapid fire questions?
Yeah, sure.
And we'll close it out. So okay. I wanted to know, what are you guys most grateful for with your 20+ year career? When you think back of everything you've done, what are you most grateful for? What comes to mind?
Well, I think the fans supporting us and accepting the fact that we're getting older and we're not on TV, and we've, I'm missing a couple teeth and whatever else, and you put some weight on and this and that, and we're very fortunate that we've had some great people in our corner, like we talked about, that we said Don Cherry's helped us out huge. He gave us our first break in the business with Rock'em Sock'em 9, and Ron McLean, that has been amazing to us, and guys like that. We've actually had more help from the hockey community than the music business, and so believe it or not, that
but yeah, we've been fortunate to be around a lot of great people, and those great people have kept us alive all these years.
Amazing. Now, so Robbie, what you've been playing your entire life with your brother. This is your partner in crime, at least in music, maybe in some other areas as well. When you look at your brother, what do you love most about him as a brother, as a person, and as a musician? And be kind, because he's going to have to say some kind words back to you as well.
Yeah, you get to go first.
I get to
go last.
Well, it's great. Like Sam said one time, this whole experience, the great thing about it is that it brought us closer together, because we're in each other's stories, and we could finish sentences and stuff. We're not twins, but we're almost. And, he's a guy I can always count on. And he's been the voice of reason numerous times, and he's great diffusing problems. And I've seen him. I in the book, I write a line there, and because I get my own chapter, which could be scary,
dangerous, but
I said, he's the kind of guy that can tell you to go to hell and makes you look forward to the trip, right? And he's very good at songwriting and this and that. And in the early days, the original Glory Day lineup guides would tell us we talk too much and this and that and this and that, and they try to beat you up because they couldn't compete with the redneck farm charm, whatever the hell. And my brother, I said, can entertain kids better than Santa Claus. You can walk into a biker bar and be doing shots with them. Hockey players, he can walk into most situations, and where I can rub people the wrong way, here and there.
Sandy, what does that feel like, hearing those words from
well,
your brother?
the great thing is between him and me, I'm pretty sure I know how he feels. So, and he's not the type to, he's not the type to, he's ultimate tough guy. I have some amazing stories. Unfortunately, we can't necessarily tell them on the book on him. But I was doing an interview one time, and it was the first time I, got they caught me emotional because they asked me that question.
So there you go.
So my answer to that question was, when I was sleeping in my car, he was beside me.
So we've got a lot of great stories, and we said we're good friends with Johnny Reed, and Johnny was great, took us coast to coast and this and that. And every tour, Johnny's the master at convincing women to spend more money at his merch booth, and he's got a great product. But he's I think he invented love. To be totally honest, every tour has love in it, and his logos and this and that. And he's the kind of guy that a day wouldn't go by that he wouldn't say love. And I'm the kind of guy that a year go by and I might say it 4 times.
Yeah, but you know where you stand. And you can always count on Rob. He's a defender of everyone. Anyone who's ever been in the band, they don't have to worry. You actually mentioned Lonnie there earlier, and one time we were in Oshawa, and Rob said, what's the problem? And he said, well, I grew up here and people picked on me, and Rob said, you don't have to worry tonight. And that's the kind of guy he is. He had everybody's back. Every band member should appreciate him, because the different things happen on the road. Even Steve Gore one time, there was somebody said something cute one time. He didn't even get the chance to defend himself because Rob was boom right there. And one time there was a situation where something bad was about to go down, and this guy comes in. He's like, well, if this goes down, I'm in. And Rob comes over, he's saying, well, I'm in too. Never even happened. It was over before it started. So he's actually the one that started Mudmen. Rob is the one that started this whole thing. And he's a fantastic songwriter. Like, the guy could have been a prodigy on the bagpipes. He was offered to play with a pipe band in Ireland. They'd move him over there. And he probably could have been a prodigy on any instrument he wanted to be, because he'll pick up the banjo or mandolin or guitars, and he can pick on and hack away on songs. And if he'd had those opportunities when he was young, then but the great thing is, like he said too, is like, it's great knowing that you've always got somebody, that you're a team. We had a good friend of ours one time said to us, he said, well, I don't know if you're going to make it or not, but the one thing I know is you'll either make it together or you fail together. But one guy won't make it without the other one.
I think the world would be, I think the world would be a better place if more people had someone in their corner like you guys have with each other, where it's your ride or die. There's someone there you can lean on if you need to. So I think that's pretty special.
Well, I said that one time too. It's like, if somebody said to me, okay, you can choose anybody you want in the world, whether it's Andre the Giant if he was alive, or Mike Tyson, or Stone Cold Steve Austin, or The Rock, or anybody you want to choose to step out the door with you and into a battle you're likely going to lose, I'll take him.
Are you guys ready for one final question? Can you handle one final question?
Countdown.
Final question. If you guys could go back in time and you could sit down with your 10-year-old selves, so there's cute little Robbie, cute little Sandy, you're sitting next to them. If you could whisper advice into each other's ears, what advice would you give? I mean, you've had almost 25 years of a career, of experience, of stories, of mentorship, all this stuff. What advice would you give to your 10-year-old selves?
Learn the guitar or the piano.
Why? It's more lucrative? Why?
Maybe play hockey. Well, because I'm just kind of joke around with that, because it's hard to to say things that you change. But I mean, that's part of our story too, that the amount of abuse we've had to take with bagpipes don't belong in popular music, and you'd be shocked and amazed what we've had to go through there, even with the record label. Like, you were going to ask us, how did we get the record deal? We were in a Mervish production. That's what got the Campbell brothers signed to EMI Records. And then we changed the name later to Mudmen. But We even signed a EMI on that second album, and you're having to listen. People weren't honest with us up front, but when the album was completed, you're getting to listen to your radio guy talk about how much better this album is going to do with the less bagpipes and the less bagpipes and the less bagpipes. Because I even told my son about this band with the bagpipes. He's like, oh my God, because the bagpipes are not cool. So we've had to fight the fight where you say, okay, AC/DC, number one hit, bagpipes, but it was a novelty. They only did it once. Okay, what about Paul McCartney? He did it. Number one hit, again, novelty, only did it once. And so we've had to fight this battle that we don't belong. And this is why we've talked about we should do commercials and things for minorities and things like that, because you walk in, playing one of the most hated instruments in the world, wearing a dress, you're like a dartboard and everyone's holding the darts. You have to listen to sound persons that, cute comments constantly. And it's not like, here's a good one. We showed up, play a show one night, and Rob's known to be the guy that you don't mess with him. I'm more gentle and
not so much more. I'm getting too old.
We're getting mellow now.
He's a softie now.
But we were doing this gig, and the sound person decides he wants to be, cool with the other guys in the band. So he starts with cute bagpipe comments. And he says, how many bagpipers does it take to turn in a light bulb? So Rob and I weren't even in the conversation because, he's talking to the other cool guys that, joined the band, 15 years after it started or whatever. And he says, how many bagpipers does it take to screw in a light bulb? And I said, 2. One to screw in the light bulb and the other one to throw the sound man in the dumpster.
I like it.
And but anyway, sorry, that wasn't what
I think if I came back to say what to myself, I would say, be careful of the snakes and be less giving, because we cut the first guys in the band as equal partners, and we put all the money up. We bled and suffered, and the record label and management were shopping deals without bagpipes, trying to work a deal and out you could go kind of thing, and you give people power, they work against you, and you have to run things like a business. It's like friendship is great, but business, if you're going to be successful, it's like the old break an egg to make an omelet. And it's like Vince McMahon is a classic example that for a lot of people love him. A lot of people have bad stories about him, but hey, what? He got to point B.
Well, they say that that's true. To be successful, you have to make some enemies along the way. So I don't think we've made too many. We've been pretty good, but maybe that's why we're not successful. I don't know. But
you're still standing. So for our listeners that have come along on this journey, they've heard all these crazy stories. If they want to find out more about the Mudmen, or if they want to reach out and say comments that they love the episode or they love the music, where are the best places to reach out? So there's a website. Is there a Facebook page? I see some of you on Instagram. Where should they reach out, or where should they go?
They should follow on like all of our social media platforms. We've yet to join TikTok, but if you go to mudmen.ca.
You don't have any dance videos on TikTok yet?
Okay. Yeah, we said we'll have to investigate that, see if it's worth us doing that. Because we get some fans submit little kids singing songs, and it's pretty cute and stuff like that. But with TikTok, you got to have a lot of, it seems like you've got to have a lot of content. It's something you just can't, throw something out once a week. But if you go to our website, you can actually join our Red Plaid Army, and for $20, you can subscribe and get some behind the scenes stories and pictures and stuff like that. And if you want to go to our YouTube channel at, Mudmen Celtic Rock Warriors, you can follow us there, see videos, and, Twitter. We are Mudmen at the Mudmen, official Mudmen Facebook page, or the Mudmen group, Instagram, the official Mudmen, Bands in Town Mudmen, Reverb Nation Mudmen.
You said you were going to hold up a paper.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. See, I wrote this
we
up.
got some This is the first time we have props on the show.
Oh, it's reversed because the
no, it's good. No, it's good for us.
Oh, it's great side for you.
But you see that there she is. I should have printed it out better, and it covers my ugly mug here too. But we said that's the key. We're rebuilding our social media. We had the best year ever on our Mud store, because there's the only way that they could buy stuff. We did play 16 shows last year with COVID.
It's pretty good.
A couple television shows, and I had another prop here too that back, we talked about me being a prankster, and I used to carry this in the pipe case. And when somebody in the band was acting like a princess, I would take a picture holding this up, princess of the day. And there's a few guys that cried and told their mom, and
that's like getting coal on Christmas. My dad got coal this year, which the point was to make my nieces laugh, and they liked it. But my dad got coal this year, so that's the equivalent, I think.
Did you ever see in hockey when they said about you've been a bad Ron McLean, you've been bad this year, you're going to get coal in your stocking? They had an oversized stocking with Bob Cole standing in it.
No, but that's pretty clever.
And that was pretty cute. But we didn't talk of a lot of. We went off the.
No, we might have to do another one.
Yeah, we
can hit the points.
When we get the album out or the book or something, we can come back and do a follow up. And we are releasing an album in the spring. That is the intent. We paid the deposit in February 2020, so it's not like we're not serious. And Sig Meyer is going to be engineering this when he's
from London, Ontario.
Yeah, and
he was a teacher. My background is in audio engineering. When I was 18, I went to OEArt, and he was an affiliate. He came in. I think he teaches there now, and he was. I think he had been a teacher, and he's a teacher now. And when I was there, he came in as a guest speaker, so I'm familiar with him. And he came up in the stories with Chuck from the Salads and I Mother Earth as well. So
now here's a question for you. Was there any more questions that we didn't answer? Was there any like real fans, not friends and ex-band members that texted in here? Or
there's I got about 4 pages worth of questions, but
really?
No, through the stories, we were weaving through the questions. We got them answered about the major label and going independent and life on the road and different singers. I'm weaving a story with you as we go. I'm just tapping and guiding a little bit, but this is the interview. So this will be, I believe, maybe the 36th or I think 37th episode. And it's the first time where I basically didn't have to look at the question list for a 2-hour interview, because it flowed, right? Just a bunch of friends talking about music and what they're passionate about. So yeah, here's what I will say is the first thing that releases for you guys, whether it's the book, the documentary, or the new album, the first thing that comes out will get you back on, and we'll get the word out about that release.
Okay. Sounds good.
Perfect. All right, guys, look, I was a fan that waited in line at 14 for your autograph and your picture. I just got to sit down and pick your brain for 2 hours. So this means a lot to me that you guys are willing to hop on the podcast. I really appreciate it, and it's great to talk to you guys.
I like how you said pick your brain like we're sharing one.
Yeah, it's the mother brain, the Mudmen mother brain.
Sometimes I think we do, but it's actually funny that like that particular day, I remember that day very, very well, but it's too bad because there's been a lot of other situations where people have come up to us and they said, hey, could I play boron with you guys tonight? I got to meet you when I was 10 years old. You guys came right out of the beer tent because I wasn't allowed to go in. And so we have some great stories like that where that day, I know it was more of a table and you just kind of went through and passed. Yep. But there's other times where people actually have stories of us going to Tim Hortons, like we said, till
boosting their
first time I met Sig, 3 or 4 hours in Tim Hortons were told stories. I went for a meeting yesterday in Brantford over a guy doing some hoodies and stuff for us. What's the name of the company now?
Campus Crew.
Campus Crew. When they're in Brantford, great guys. 3 hours we sat there and told stories, and we used to get made fun of sometimes for talking too much and whatever. And we said, well, how do you think, we became friends with a guy named Gore when we were doing the 2009 Edmonton Oilers home opener? And then that's who brought us back for all the gold medals in men's and women's hockey at the Commonwealth Stadium. He brought us back for the 84 reunion of the first Stanley Cup with Wayne Gretzky and all teammates present and management, everyone. And it's through making friends and things like that. So a lot of times, like the guys in Brantford yesterday, we'll probably do some stuff together because I like them. And that's number one thing. It's like, I don't know if I could beat the price and here and there, but you know what? It's a good chance we'll be working together because I like them.
Now, where did you meet since the lockdown?
Oh, we met in their thing. There's only 3 of us, and of course we wear masks the whole times. I was
There you
thinking,
go. Be safe. There's a message from the Mudmen. Be safe out there, kids.
oh yeah, don't do the skateboarding and stuff, and no, I joke.
I heard of an artist in the States that was handing out free COVID masks with their logo on it. It was somebody big.
Oh wow!
And then they said because they just jacked the ticket price up $1 and whatever it costs. Well, if you're gonna do 10,000 orders or 20 or whatever, and they got shut down because of was it in a plastic wrapper or something? They couldn't just hand it. People are touching it and this and that. Now, if you go to our store and you want a COVID mask, ours have plastic wrapper. Yeah. That's the message.
They come in wrapped in plastic. Very nice.
Yeah.
Powerful merch shout out. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
We always joke around, you got to support the starving artists. I'm down to $2.90 right now. COVID's been really hard. I got to read this Alan Doyle Surviving COVID book. I told you I don't do the 420 stuff. So just the Mudmen beer. We've got some at Inasante if you need some of that too.
It's funny because my neighbor's address is 420 and he's 83 years old, and he likes to drink the beer, but he said that there for the longest time people were stealing his. He had this fancy board that said 420 on it, and he had to put the actual numbers like 420 with the screws so they wouldn't take it because they want that 420.
Yeah, that signs a liability for
we
sure.
Said, even when we did all those corporate shows and we did, Walmart and Kodak and Weedman, and the Weedman said that their hats were so popular because
kids wanted it.
The Weedman never thought about that. But anyway, we should let you
go there. You've got some editing to do, obviously.
Oh, you got major.
No, here's the thing. This is a long form conversation. There's no editing. It's going to come through as is. That's what the people want. They don't want this chopped up, phony, pristine, whatever. They want the goods. They want to hear the boys talk. And
did you notice that I shut my phones off because we used to have a guy in the band that was so funny, and he'd pick the phone up. And he'd be like, yes, hello. I could be in LA on Thursday. And Gene Simmons is going to be there. And I'm like, watch this. And I phone his cell phone. And he's on the phone. This is years ago. And the phone rings and he's like, whatever, because I exposed it. He's faking it. Trying to impress women and stuff. And so it's like, you guys, we had a friend of ours that had his own double cell phones. And you'd be in a meeting or something, he'd be phoning himself. And we had another friend that would have somebody fake phone him, and he's like, yes, well, that's a good event. Like, I got to take this right in a radio interview, taking a call and pretending like he's going to get to open up for, I don't know, AC/DC or something.
Yeah, he pulled some of that. But I mean, back in the day, being fair, that's a lot of bands back in the day. Smoke and Mirrors where there's a lot of smoke.
Before you could get called out on social media, you could get away with a lot of that
People have seen behind the curtain now, but there was a time when, I don't think people, and you see these stars too, they were so protected, but now it's the opposite. It's like you have to be very careful what you do. But anyway, we won't keep holding you up here. So
we'll let you go.
It's all good. It's time well spent. Well, guys, thanks again. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Okay. Thanks.
I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I'd love to hear from you guys. My goal is to grow this podcast organically, where you're giving me feedback on topics you'd like me to cover and guests you'd like me to interview. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Joel Martin Mastery. Joel is Joel, and on Twitter at Joel Mastery. So I am done. I am complete. I approve this message, and I'll see you on the next episode.